Good morning and welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. It is 10 a.m. on the East Coast, bright and early, 7 a.m. out there on the West Coast. And thanks so much for watching from coast to coast, including, of course, the great Central Time Zone, the Mountain Time Zone, and anywhere else you may be watching this live or maybe a bit later today or tomorrow on replay. So at 11 a.m., President Trump will hold that cabinet meeting at the White House, of course, originally scheduled for Camp David in Maryland, but a lot of the weather that you guys have seen out there, at least on the east of the Mississippi, from the north to the south, there's just been a lot of storms, as many know, across this country. So the president, again, will have that cabinet meeting at the White House today. This is one of his, I don't know, at this point, what is it, 8, 9, 10? A lot of cabinet meetings, but that's obviously what happens when you're the president. But on top of that, what we haven't seen with other presidents is the amount of live access to a president. President Trump is unprecedented in that way as well. And speaking of the White House, here's a new video posted about a man who never actually lived inside 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, but still led us into the great United States experiment. Let's take a look.
First in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. Light Horse Harry Lee's words from the official eulogy of George Washington were once famous. Nowadays, we usually think of Washington as the granite figure on Mount Rushmore, or Gilbert Stuart's famous painting, solemn and distant. But at the time of the American Revolution, 43-year-old George Washington was in the prime of his life, battle-tested, strong and vigorous. At 6 foot 2 inches, he was a natural leader of men. Washington did not write the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution or the Federalist Papers. Yet his defiant, inspiring, and commanding writings far outweigh those of his contemporaries. As a military general, he lost more battles than he won. Yet Washington fearlessly led an untrained army to defeat the greatest military power in the world. If the Declaration of Independence was an expression of the American mind, as Jefferson called it, George Washington was its embodiment. He brought the revolution's principles to life, and in doing so brought this country into being. This was the man who founded America. George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, near Pope's Creek in Westmoreland County, Virginia. The first of 6 children of Augustine and Mary Ball Washington. What he learned came mostly from self-study and practical experience. He knew the Bible and Shakespeare, read Seneca and Cicero, and studied history in the political writings of the day. As a young man, Washington was a surveyor and traveled extensively in the area west of the Appalachian Mountains. He wanted to join the British Navy, but his mother objected. At the age of 21, Washington sought a commission and was appointed by the British as a major in the militia. Later, as a lieutenant colonel, his regiment was sent to the Ohio Valley to challenge a French incursion. The resulting skirmishes marked the opening of the French and Indian War. Since he could advance no further in British ranks, being a colonial subject, Washington resigned his commission and instead volunteered as an aide to General Edward Braddock, who led a British expedition to expel the French from Fort Duquesne. When they were ambushed and Braddock was mortally wounded, it was Washington, with 2 horses shot from under him and his clothes pierced by 4 musket balls, who rallied the panicked troops and formed a rear guard, allowing the remaining force to retreat. After that, he was appointed colonel of the Provincial Virginia Regiment, which made him the highest-ranking American military officer in the colony. In 1758, Washington was elected a member of the House of Burgesses. The next year, he married the young widow, Martha Custis, who would be his wife for the next 40 years. and they established their home at Mount Vernon. He served as a vestryman in their nearby Anglican parish. Washington had inherited slaves, and more came with his marriage, but he eventually opposed slavery, wished to see its abolition, and in his will, upon Martha's death, freed his slaves. As the colonial crisis heated up, Washington sponsored a series of resolutions denying the right of the British Parliament to tax the colonists, and along with George Mason, introduced the Fairfax Resolves, which closed Virginia's trade with England. In 1774, Washington was elected as a Virginia delegate to the Continental Congress in Philadelphia. After Lexington Concord, Washington urged Congress to prepare for war. He attended sessions in his uniform to show that he was deadly serious. When Congress recognized the militia forces around Boston as a Continental Army, there was really no question who would be selected to command them. General Washington left Philadelphia just as news broke of the Battle of Bunker Hill. Once outside Boston, he immediately set out to force the British to battle or to leave, which they did after Washington had cannons placed on Dorchester Heights, threatening the British ships in Boston's harbor. Anticipating that the British would attack New York next, he swiftly moved his army there. It is often argued that Washington followed a Fabian strategy, modeled after the Roman general who defeated a superior enemy through a war of skirmishes and attrition. But Washington was also a bold general when the opportunity presented itself. After retreating across New Jersey, for instance, Washington executed a daring attack by crossing the icy Delaware River on December 26, 1776, with 2,000 men to attack Hessian mercenaries occupying Trenton. Washington then led his outnumbered Continental Army against British forces near Princeton, New Jersey. When his men wavered in the battle, Washington rode to the front lines, well within range of British muskets, to rally them in a counterattack that secured the victory. Those two battles, Trenton and Princeton, changed the momentum of the whole war. Washington's greatest strategic operation culminated in the last great battle of the American Revolution. The victory at Saratoga had induced the French to form a military alliance with the Americans, and that created a new opportunity. In 1781, Washington initially planned to attack British forces in New York City, but quickly saw a chance to seal a march on the enemy. He spread misinformation, forged documents, and kept watchfires burning while he secretly led 8,000 troops over 400 miles from New York to trap Lieutenant General Charles Cornwallis at Yorktown, Virginia. Washington coordinated movements with both the French Army and Navy to prevent British naval reinforcement or evacuation, and orchestrated the formal siege that forced Cornwallis to surrender his entire army. That victory shattered British resolve to continue the war. Washington's greatest act as general occurred after Yorktown, but before the peace treaty of 1783. The Continental Army had not been paid consistently for years due to Congress's financial struggles, and the officers were frustrated by Congress's seeming ingratitude for their service. Some proposed drastic action, refusing to disband, or even marching on Philadelphia to threaten Congress. Washington called a general meeting and then showed up unexpectedly to speak to his officers. He denounced the mutinous talk as subversive, appealing to their patriotism, and recalling the last words of the Declaration, to your own sacred honor. Then, pulling out a pair of glasses to read a letter from Congress, he said, "Gentlemen, you'll permit me to put on my spectacles, for I have grown not only gray, but almost blind in the service of my country." The conspiracy immediately collapsed. Later that year, Washington's circular address to the states set off a series of events which culminated in the Constitutional Convention of 1787. Washington was elected its president. Be assured, future President James Monroe reminded another future president, Thomas Jefferson, his influence carried this government. Is it any wonder that Washington was unanimously elected to be the first president of the United States? The arc of Washington's statesmanship was complete. He had led his people from revolution through war to a constitutional republic. Twice during the Revolution, Washington was granted absolute power by Congress to do whatever was necessary for the cause. Twice, he gave that power back. When one of his colonels proposed that Washington be made a king, he rejected the idea in utter disgust. After the war, Washington resigned his military commission. After 2 terms as president, he resigned that too. The French Revolution ended in violence, the guillotine, and the wars of Napoleon. That the American Revolution did not was largely because of Washington, who sought an independent nation of self-governing people, living freely, to use his favorite biblical metaphor, under their own vine and fig tree. The moderation and virtue of a single character, Jefferson later reflected, probably prevented this revolution from being closed, as most others have been, by a subversion of that liberty it was intended to establish. When he resigned for the last time, Washington left his beloved country enduring advice in his farewell address: uphold the Constitution, be vigilant in protecting the liberty of all, guard the nation's independence, and above all, maintain the civic and moral character necessary for self-government. George Washington is Pater Patriae, the father of our country, but he never had children of his own. We are his children. Together, we must live up to this inheritance, especially now on our nation's 250th birthday.
So, of course, celebrating our 250th coming up in less than 2 months from now, as President George Washington said, quote, "Liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth." Liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth. May we keep cultivating and planting liberty throughout our land. And we could really start with passing the Save America Act. That would be great, right? Anyway, let's go to some of our sponsors as we are awaiting that cabinet meeting in the cabinet room of the White House. Let's go to All Family Pharmacy. As you see there on your screen, this is a great American independent pharmacy. As you guys can see there, you may have grown familiar with All Family Pharmacy. So specifically, Americans, of course, are tired of being told to wait or jump through endless hoops just to access the medications they may already know they need. So if your health is your responsibility, right, why does it feel like someone else is always in control? That's why more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy, whether it's everyday maintenance medications or common antibiotics or simply being prepared before travel or emergencies. All Family Pharmacy makes the process simple, fast, and secure. So there's no crowded waiting rooms, no unnecessary hassle, just a convenient way to order your medications online from a trusted U.S. pharmacy focused on helping families stay prepared. Because the reality is, of course, shortages happen, delays happen, emergencies happen, and peace of mind starts with being proactive, not reactive. So right now, when you visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, you can use promo code RSBN10. You'll save 10% off your order at checkout. And as many know, being prepared really isn't extreme. It's just common sense. So allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code to save that 10%. Also, let's go to Birch Gold Group. When there are supply constraints out there on commodities, we know that prices surge. You saw it with the fuel prices when the Strait of Hormuz was blockaded. And we know that gold is also a limited commodity. They mine it out of the ground, of course, and when it's gone, it's gone. Governments can't just print more of it, and that's why everyone from central banks to savvy savers are diversified with gold. So if you've been thinking about it for years but have still never moved some of your savings into physical gold, Birch Gold Group is who we trust to help you. Now through May 29th, Birch Gold is giving first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. So for details and a free information kit on diversifying into gold, text Trump to the number 989898. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. So all you have to do to get started is just text Trump to that number 989898 to see if you qualify for a first-time gold buyer rebate of up to $10,000. Great sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. It is 10:16 Eastern Time. Thanks again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Joining us now is Julia Friedland. She is the spokesperson for Freedom 250. Thanks so much for joining us, Julia.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. All right. So a big announcement today from Freedom 250. It looks like quite the star-studded lineup and more details about the Great American State Fair. Can you share some of the highlights with us?
Of course, for your viewers that do not know, this July 4th will be America's 250th birthday. So we're putting on a Great American State Fair that will run from June 25th through July 10th on the National Mall. As you said, we have a star-studded lineup already announced. This is just our first round and there will be more to come. But on June 25th, we're proud to announce that we'll have Martina McBride. On the 26th, we'll have CNC Music Factory. For those of you who do not know, he is the mastermind behind Everybody Dance Now. We'll also be having folks like Vanilla Ice, Milli Vanilli, the Commodores, Morris Day and the Time, Flo Rida on July 2nd, and Bret Michaels on July 3rd. The Great American State Fair will bring together all states and territories into one place. Each state and territory will actually have a booth on the National Mall in which they will share their heritage and the things that make their state unique during the Great American State Fair. And people from around the country and visitors abroad will be able to come onto the National Mall and learn more about each state. There will also be a 110-foot Ferris wheel, There will be a carousel gifted to us from the Smithsonian and Classic Americana Fair and attractions all in the National Mall. And on July 4th will be a huge fireworks festival to celebrate our 250th birthday.
All right, that's quite the lineup that's going to be, performing there on, from June 25th, you said, to July 10th. Interesting that each state will have the artifacts, the history of each state will be there. This is going to be quite the event. Now, is this a free of charge event? Of course, the security will be very tight there, but is it free of charge?
Yes, free of charge, open to everyone. It's America's 250th birthday, and everyone is invited. Go to freedom250.org to sign up today.
Are you guys also involved with the UFC fight event that's on June 14th? Is that sponsored by you guys? Are you guys involved with that one too?
That is a White House event. Okay. So for those of you who do not know, Freedom 250 is a public-private partnership between companies, the public and state and federal agencies, all brought together to celebrate America's 250th birthday. For example, during the Great American State Fair, we're having a sponsorship by John Deere and Northrop Grumman, which we also announced yesterday. And they will be having activations during the Great American State Fair. So we have the private sector partnering with federal agencies to kind of help out and put on this Great American State Fair.
What is it like to be working for Freedom 250? This is something that's obviously very big for our country, and being a spokesperson for Freedom 250 is pretty good get, right?
Yes, definitely. I'm really excited to celebrate our 250th birthday. As I've said, it's something I'll be able to tell my kids about one day, that I was there helping to put on these events and celebrate America, because we truly live in the greatest country on earth.
Amen. Julia Friedland, spokesperson for Freedom 250. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Awesome stuff. This is a press release that was actually just sent out by Freedom 250. Let's go over some of the details. Again, as we await the president, we'll go over some of the 24/7 news cycle as well. We have some possible other live interviews coming in throughout the day as we take a look at some of the renderings from Freedom 250. So they announced their first round of star-studded entertainment and activations for the Great American State Fair. This is a 16-day World's Fair style event to feature free star-studded entertainment, innovation showcases, and iconic American experiences. And as Julia mentioned, Freedom 250 today announced the first wave of participants, performers, and speakers, and featured activations for the Great American State Fair. So this 16-day national exposition taking place again June 25th through July 10th on the National Mall. So the Great American State Fair will, again, bring together all 56 U.S. states and territories in a World Fair-style celebration of America's 250th birthday. So let's get into some of the details specifically there. Again, the Great American State Fair is America on display and a moment for America to come together, said Freedom 250 CEO Keith Kratch. The Great American State Fair will bring together people from all 56 states and territories to celebrate the traditions, innovation, music, military heritage, freedom, and entrepreneurial spirit that define our nation. So you can see there the AR, Arkansas, Utah, all the states will be represented. So we have that list that Julia just shared with us, from the Commodores to Martina McBride to Milli Vanilli to Young MC Flo Rida will be there. Each day there will be a pretty big name performer, Bret Michaels on July 3rd. Even the Army Downrange Rock, the U.S. Army Contemporary Music Performance Group will be there. The Airmen of Note Jazz Ensemble, the Commanders-in-Chief Guard Ceremonial Military Demonstration Unit, the U.S. Army Fife and Drum Corps, the Historic Military Music Ensemble. So a lot happening, of course, the Ferris wheel as well. I don't know about you, I'm not into heights, even on a Ferris wheel sometimes. I don't know about you, but not the biggest thing in the heights. I could fly in an airplane any day of the week, but I don't know about some of those rides there. But anyway, let's get into some more details about this, as we're just taking a little bit of time to talk about, Freedom 250. I'm going to get to some more details here on the fact that the event will also include special appearances and programming by representatives of the National Medal of Honor Museum. I believe we may have, I'm not sure if we have it, a live look at the National Mall as well that we can take a look at. In the meantime, we know that nationally recognized health and wellness leaders will be there. Some of America's top innovators who will participate in immersive educational and interactive experiences. On top of that, in addition to that live program, the event will include that 110-foot Ferris wheel overlooking the National Mall, a newly refurbished Smithsonian National Carousel, state and territory showcases from across America. There will be robotics and autonomous vehicle demonstrations, and a number of other things going on. So I think you got the hint there that this is kind of a huge event coming up. So let's do this. Let's go to a few of our sponsors in the meantime. Go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. If you'd like to get to Kalshi, you have three ways to do that: the QR code, the app, and also Kalshi.com/RSBN. So three spots to get you to Kalshi. More than 1 million users on this site. That number growing because people want to know, specifically within the polling, what people are betting on or trading on or voting on when it comes to things like the mayoral race out there in Los Angeles. Karen Bass, a real winner, right? Going against people like Spencer Pratt, who is a rock star within just the political ad space, if you look on X at all. Anyway, so a lot of people putting money on the line for that one, and a number of other races as well. Of course, Ken Paxton winning against Mr. Cornyn just yesterday in Texas. That was one that people were looking at closely. But if you want to take a quick break from politics on Kalshi, just, there's sports, there's weather, there's music, there's all sorts of stuff you can check out right there on Kalshi.com. All right, let's go to another sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. As you see there, Cove Pure. You've heard us talk about Cove Pure before. And if the water scares in Flint and East Palestine weren't enough to get you to make the switch, this might, because more than 176 million Americans are drinking tap water with PFAs in it. They're the man-made chemicals, of course, used in food packaging, nonstick cookware, firefighting foam. Scientists call them forever chemicals because once they're in your body, they just stay there. They don't break down, and then they're linked to hormone disruption, immune damage, and increased cancer risk. But here's the part that's making a number of people upset. I mean, the EPA did their job. They set legal limits for PFAS in drinking water back in 2024. But the water systems out there have until 2031 to fully comply. So obviously it's a 5 whole years from now. And until that deadline arrives, the utility can actually operate above the legal limit of these PFAS. And they're not really required to notify you about it. So you're just drinking that water. And as I mentioned from time to time, that water that has that lovely aftertaste, I don't know how people can drink tap water, to be honest with you, but hey, you know, it happens. But that's why every single household needs Cove Pure. The government knows these chemicals are harmful enough to regulate. They're just not making anyone act on it yet. Now, recently, the EPA Administrator, Lee Zeldin, he announced $1 billion for a grant, a $1 billion grant for smaller communities to get rid of forever chemicals. But in the meantime, if you want clean, healthy water, you're gonna have to do it yourself. Cove Pure was engineered exactly for this. Unlike the normal pitcher filters that you see there at the store, their Cove Pure Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. So PFAS, heavy metals, fluoride, pharmaceuticals, all filtering particles hundreds of thousands of times smaller than a single human hair. And then on top of that, the best part about Cove Pure is they make it really easy for you. It sits right on your countertop. You don't have to drill any holes or call someone in to install it. You just plug it in. You can even get whatever temperature water you want with hot, cold, or warm with just a tap of a button. So you don't have to wait until 2031. Let's take control of your water quality right now. Just head to covepure.com/RSBN. And because you're a viewer of Right Side, you'll get $250 off right now. That's covepure.com/RSBN. We're approaching the bottom of the hour. That's a lot of talking right there. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thanks again for live streaming and with us here on Right Side. RFK Jr. was in Ohio recently touring numerous medical facilities there. Let's take a look at the Secretary of the Health and Human Services tour in Cleveland.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS Secretary. I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio, with the CEOs of the biggest hospitals in Cleveland, University Hospital, Metro Health Systems, and of course, the Cleveland Clinic.
Everything that you see here is a Cleveland Clinic.
I had an extraordinary tour today. I got to be in an operating theater during a robotic open heart surgery that wasn't actually open heart because they don't need it with the robots.
No, this is a running computer.
And I got to see the biggest quantum computer in the world that used exclusively for medical purposes, and it allows innovation at a scale that we've never seen before. I have so much hope for our system after meeting with these CEOs today. They're all committed to preventative care, to primary care, to family-based care, and to outcome-based or value-based care models.
Value-based care, the notion of quality divided by cost, is actually something that you could program in through innovation.
That's so critical for our patients and will help us transform the U.S. healthcare system from one that's just based on sick care to one that truly promotes wellness.
Mr. Secretary spent a great deal of time understanding how we can use basic approaches to help move the needle on chronic conditions, starting with the food as medicine approach and collaborative care.
Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for spending time in Cleveland, and I hope that we're able to demonstrate that we can provide exceptionally good care for all people that we treat.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here in Cleveland.
All right, so we see there from Cleveland, Ohio, and in just a little bit, we'll take you live to Florida. I know that Governor Ron DeSantis is holding a live press conference right now, just speaking about things within the Sunshine State. So we'll dip into that for just a second. Before we do, let's take one more look at Memorial Day 2026 as we get ready to celebrate our nation's 250th in July.
Memorial Day is a day of remembrance, a day of mourning, and a day of celebrating the great American spirit, and most of all, gratitude. Gratitude for the men and women who stepped forward without hesitation when their nation called and said simply, "Send me." For 250 years, the men and women of America's armed forces have always been willing to sacrifice for something greater than themselves.
On this sacred occasion for our nation, we take the day for memories of our very best. But this solemn day, we must remember that our republic was forged and purchased with blood. So take pause today and consider the transformation these warriors went through for our nation. Share it with your kids and your grandkids. We must.
All of us owe a debt. And we owe a debt to the people who went overseas and gave their lives that the United States might be prosperous and peaceful and free. That we owe a debt to the people who put on a uniform, knowing they might never come back. And indeed, today we pay tribute to those who never came back.
Today here at Arlington, a very special place. This Memorial Day, we salute them, we exalt them, and we thank them for all that we have and for all that they gave. With reverent hearts, we honor those who fell so that our republic might stand, those who died so that our nation could live, those who gave up their sacred light on earth so that the sublime light of American freedom would shine forever and ever.
As we honor our nation's service members from every conflict in our nation's history, as you look across the rows of white headstones and the columbarium, remember that every individual marker tells a story of service and sacrifice. Today, we pause to express our deepest gratitude.
Just reviewing, of course, Monday, right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, Memorial Day. And it's pretty much every day that we are focused on, our U.S. Armed Forces, what they've done for us, what they're doing for us, but also what everybody in this country is doing in the sense of on the right side of history. Those of us that pray, work hard, that vote, that get out to vote, that talk on whether it's conservative media or podcast or a citizen journalist or even a post on X or Truth Social. I believe every single bit counts, even when we talk maybe with somebody at the grocery store or whatever, however it works, just doing our part of remaining free in this nation. I don't want to think about what could happen in the midterms or the presidency in 2029. We hope for wins all the way through, but you hope for the best, right? You prepare for the best. You prepare for the worst, hope for the best, whatever the saying is. I'm just waking up, guys. I have a newborn, so I'm just trying to get with it here on Right Side Live right now, but you know what I mean. You get the point. We just got to keep on keeping on. So we're going to go to Florida here in just a second from now. Before we do, let's go to mypillow.com/RSBN. mypillow.com/RSBN. So save up to 80%. That's always good. You save a lot of money there with MyPillow. A lot of great products there. Mike Lindell, the great owner of MyPillow.com, and also a number of other companies out there running for governor in Minnesota, doing great things for election integrity. One of the leaders in our entire country for safe and secure elections. Of course, it'd be great to see the Save America Act passed to help. But in the meantime, if you'd like to help when it comes to just finances and getting great products, just go to mypillow.com/RSBN. Same goes for us here at Right Side. If you'd like to donate to Right Side, just go to rsbnetwork.com/donate, rsbnetwork.com/donate. All right, let's go now to the Sunshine State. Governor Ron DeSantis recently, actually live right now, I believe, holding a press conference. Let's go there.
Is join the Communist Party and become part of the regime. That's the only way. They live like kings. And everybody else, you think, I mean, look, I've not been in Cuba proper. I've been in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, not as a detainee, as a military officer. Just want to make that clear. You never know what the news will do on that. So I've seen just the base, and you know, it's kind of like the movie A Few Good Men. Tom Cruise walks out there, and Jack Nicholson, Colonel Jessup, is sitting there, you know, smoking a cigar, but like, it's just like this breathtaking backdrop, because it's like the commander, the CO's house is right on the water, and that is true in Gitmo. So I've been to kind of what that house was supposed to represent and actually seen that, and this amazing coastline for people that like fishing and boating and snorkeling, all that stuff. I mean, just amazing. So if they had a free country, you would see the island really, really boom. And they've been repressed for decades. I look forward to there being a new day. Now, ultimately, as I've said, I mean, look, I was willing to send internet there back in 21 when Biden abandoned the protesters. We were going to send a hot air balloon over because they shut off the internet. You would have got internet through hot air balloon. But the vendor was worried that the federal government under Biden was going to take their business license, so they wouldn't do the deal. But I was willing to do that because I thought ultimately it's got to be the people of Cuba that determine that own destiny. The idea that we can just kind of go and all of a sudden, you know, it's not that simple. These are very complicated things. But the Raul Castro indictment is welcome news. I do think that it's justified, not just for the Brothers of the Rescue, but just for all the infringements of liberty, stealing people's life's work, political prisoners. I mean, you name it, they've done it. And I know that that's not the only place in the world that unfortunately happens, but in Florida, we just have a lot of people who were personally oppressed by the Cuban dictatorship when Castro took power. And so it's something that is very sensitive here in the state of Florida. And I know a lot of people kind of lost a little hope over the years as it just seemed like, you know, how can this regime stay in power? But I do believe that the communist dictatorship in Cuba is on its last legs. I can't tell you it's going to be tomorrow, next year, but I think it's getting to the point where certainly in the not too distant future, it's ultimately going to be put out to pasture, and that'll be a good day for human freedom. All right, thanks everybody.
All right, so there you go. Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida holding that press conference and then making news right there live on Right Side talking about Cuba on its last leg. We'll see when that all happens when it comes to the government, of course, of Cuba. All right, let's now get an update from the National Guard along our southern border, and then we're going to get to some of your comments live right here on Right Side as we're awaiting President Trump here in just about 21 minutes from now. But let's go to clip 4 in the meantime.
Hey, I'm Staff Sergeant Maris Vega. I'm a remote pilot in command. The main objective of drone operations is to provide real-time imagery while relaying information to BP while providing situational awareness. I actually detected someone at the bank, came to find out it was a group of 5 people, and 3 of them were carrying bundles of narcotics. in which concluded with them being apprehended and all 3 bundles being seized here recently. And the street value of the bundles were around $60K.
10-4, we're up in that area. We'll try and catch.
Working with Border Patrol has been a great experience due to the knowledge that they've shared with us and also the support they also give us as well. My favorite part about Operation Lone Star is being able to utilize technology. I feel like I'm making a difference because I'm out here serving both my state and my country, preventing narcotics and criminals entering the country. While continuing Operation Lone Star, we will eventually get to 100% control of the border.
You know, since day one with President Trump, we saw all of the details when it comes to the amount of the National Guard, the military, Customs Border Protection, all down there along the southern border as the wall continues to be built. And of course, what we saw under Joe Biden, remember Eagle Pass, Texas, all of the people just coming across in those caravans. We saw live pictures or video drone footage of just masses of people on the way to our southern border. Well, of course, those days are long gone. Now it's about mass deportations. The mass lines in, well, it's the mass lines now back out because we don't know who everyone is coming into the nation. And this isn't just the United States thing. Of course, any country on earth, most countries have very strict guidelines when it comes to who's allowed into the nation. So we're just doing what everyone else is doing. It's common sense stuff, right? All right, let's do this. Let's go to some of your live comments right now here on Right Side Broadcasting Network as we are about 19 minutes away from the beginning of the cabinet meeting right here on Right Side. So as you see, we have a live footage right there coming up on the right side of your screen. We'll interact with you guys a little bit here as we are looking forward to connecting with you guys even more here on Right Side. Of course, when we're out there, those rallies, we're always able to do that with you right there live on in the moment. Well, we can do that here as well. Specifically, we see here, let's see. Let's look at some of the things. Cuba will become wonderful given the chance. Great people. Thankful for the Border Patrol. That's very true. Mary Morvan saying good morning. So good morning to you. Democrats worship Cuba, someone says there. Iran is garbage, is somebody there as well. That is beautiful writing. I hope it's beautiful words. We're just checking out what you guys are saying out there. Let's do this. Where is everybody watching from? We'll just start out with some of the basics. Then, of course, do you think that the Save America Act will actually pass? Will there be enough momentum on Capitol Hill to, again, prepare and hope for the best, prepare for the worst? That's the saying I was looking for earlier. But anyway, God bless our Border Patrol for keeping us safe. Cuba will become wonderful given the chance. Great people, as I mentioned earlier. My grandpa is actually from Cuba. That's why I have the last name Alvarez. And Cuban food, by the way, is very good if you haven't tried it before. Let's see here. We have Indiana. Good morning there in South Carolina. I know there's more than Indiana and South Carolina watching, so let's keep saying hello here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. 2 great states, of course. South Carolina, you had an influx of people moving to your state recently. Pretty awesome to see that as well. Let's continue on here. We see San Diego. San Diego, 7:43 in the morning out there. Thanks so much for tuning in here live on Right Side. We see Michigan. We see Texas. We see, it says here, Ukraine, Southeast Michigan. Let's go with Apache Junction, Arizona, the Grand Canyon state out there. So let's get into it a little bit, guys. What do you think about the Save America Act? Do you think that that will actually pass? Yes or no? Reasons why? And then, of course, we can get into some of that. Also, July 4th, we have a huge event, of course, that we'll be covering here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, America 250. How are you planning to celebrate our nation's 250th? With friends and family, a barbecue, a cookout, see the fireworks? Are you going to be in D.C. for that Great American State Fair? So let's take a look more at some of the updates from people live right now. Cincinnati, Ohio says hello. Wisconsin, San Diego, Flagstaff, Arizona, Canada, hello up there. Are you in Alberta by chance? Because, of course, Alberta is trying to break free from Canada, literally kind of how we broke free from the British. Alberta is trying to break free from Canada, that province there with more than, I believe, 3 million people there. Calgary and Edmonton, 2 great cities. Have to pass and birthright, somebody says here. Yes, it's a must for the Save America Act. Cincinnati, someone says, of course it'll pass. Someone saying hello from Discovery Bay, California, and Virginia. So, yeah, a lot of interaction there. We'll work on this a little bit. It's great to chat with you guys a little bit as we are live here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go to All Family Pharmacy in the meantime here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Specifically, All Family Pharmacy. Americans, of course, are tired of being told to wait or jump through endless hoops just to access the medications they may already know they need. So if your health is your responsibility, why does it feel like someone else is always in control? That's why more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy, whether it's everyday maintenance medications, common antibiotics, or simply being prepared before travel or emergencies. All Family Pharmacy makes the process simple, fast, and secure. No crowded waiting rooms, no unnecessary hassle. Just a convenient way to order your medications online from a trusted U.S. pharmacy focused on helping families stay prepared. Because the reality is, of course, shortages happen, delays happen, emergencies happen, and peace of mind starts with being proactive, not reactive. Right now, when you visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, you'll use that promo code RSBN10 to save 10% off your order. Being prepared, of course, isn't extreme. It's common sense. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Also, when there are supply constraints on commodities, prices, of course, they surge. And you see that with the fuel prices out there when the Strait of Hormuz was blockaded. And we also know that gold is a limited commodity. They mine it out of the ground, of course, and when it's gone, it's gone. Governments can't just print more of it. And that's why everyone from central banks to savvy savers are diversified with gold. If you've been thinking about it for years but have still never moved some of your savings into physical gold, Birch Gold Group is who we trust to help you. Now through May 29th, Birch Gold is giving first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. For details and a free information kit on diversifying into gold, just text Trump to the number 989898. Now, Birch Gold, we're told, can actually help you convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Just text Trump to that number, 989898, to see if you qualify for a first-time gold buyer rebate of up to $10,000. Again, text Trump to 989898 today. It is 1047. We're looking forward to seeing the 47th President of the United States here in about 13 minutes from now. To be honest with you, I don't think it's going to start in 13 minutes because we've covered a lot of cabinet meetings here. And all of the cabinet secretaries and everybody getting into the one room there right at 11, I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe that's a good thing for Kalshi, as you see one of our sponsors here. Will the cabinet meetings start at 11 a.m.? We'll see. All right, so let's do this. It is Thursday, as you guys know, I believe, right? Is it Thursday? Oh my gosh, you know what? It's Wednesday. It is Wednesday. I told you. Got the newborn baby, and he stays up a lot. And so, anyway, it's quite awesome being a new dad. I've been a new dad for about a year and a half. We have a year and a half old too. But man, thank God for coffee. So one of my crew members here brought some coffee over to me so I can hopefully stay alert. But anyway, it is not Throwback Thursday. It is Way Back Wednesday. So let's go to clip number 5.
This campaign is a righteous crusade to rescue our nation from a very corrupt political class. They are corrupt, they're incompetent, and they probably hate our country. No longer will the men and women of America pay tribute to the people who threw open our borders, flooded our communities with deadly drugs, sold our jobs to China and other foreign countries, colluded with the big banks, conspired with corporate media, corrupted our government, and unleashed murderers, rapists, and gang members, savages all, to prey on innocent people that walk the streets of our cities. They want Americans to be weak and poor, confused, divided, and afraid. Why they want that, I don't know. It's the only thing I can't figure out. Why they want that, I don't know. If you put me back in the White House, however, their reign will be over and America will be a free nation once again. It'll be a free nation. He's done everything wrong. Think of it. We've been in this mess together for 3.5 years. Only a little more than 6 months until that most important day in the history of our country, November 5th. Think of that. But what has he done that's good? Nothing. Has anything that he's done turned out? Everything he touches turns to shit. It's true. Be removed. You have to see some of these beautiful parks that you remember 5 years ago. You'd go there. They were so beautiful and safe. But you take a look at some of these parks, you can't even see the grass. There are people all over the place living there with tents. Slum areas will be demolished and rebuilt to the highest level of architectural elegance. We're going to have to do that. I know it sounds rough, but we're going to have to do that. Washington, D.C. will become a symbol of beauty, security, freedom, and strength again. We have to have that. We can't let this happen. They've taken over the Capitol.
All right, so just a little bit of a way back Wednesday there for you here live on Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's May 27th, 2026. President Trump also, not way back Wednesday, how about right now, about maybe a minute ago, saying, quote, "Congratulations to the Democrat Party. Al Green, one of the most mentally deficient congressmen in the history of our country, has lost in a landslide his seat in Congress. But I will miss that lunatic." He says, "But I will miss that lunatic not screaming and violently waving his cane at me during my next State of the Union speech. Make America great again. God bless America, President DJT." So yeah, we have a lot of primaries coming up still. Yesterday, of course, was a day. We have June 2nd coming up with Iowa, California, and a number of other states. Speaking of Iowa, after the break, we'll bring you back to, and in case you missed an interview with Dylan Filion, as he is Gen Z running for a state seat there. He also met President Trump. Pretty cool story coming up right after the break.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
And joining us now is Iowa State House candidate Dylan Filion. Thank you so much for joining us once again, Dylan.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
Definitely. All right, let's talk about the campaign right now. I know the Iowa primary is, 8 days from today?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So let's talk about your campaign and how things are going now.
Yeah, Matt. So currently right now we are on the ground. We have been outdoor knocking every day. I've door knocked a little over 2,000 doors already. And the feeling on the ground is, in my district, is a little bit different than, let's just say, a few of the red districts in my county, because I'm actually running in a swing district where there's a majority of independents and obviously there's a majority of Democrats. So there's a lot of, it's a mixed batch, but I've been hearing a lot about affordability and just the cost of things due to the Joe Biden presidency and the stuff we're still dealing with because of Joe Biden's presidency. So I've been hearing a lot of affordability problems in my district, and as well as just a little bit around the state.
So now that today, of course, is Memorial Day, and this interview may be airing on a different day, but your thoughts about Memorial Day and as we get ready to celebrate our nation's 250th anniversary, and on top of that, what you can do for Gen Z and anybody out there that loves God, family, and country.
Yes, Matt. Memorial Day means a lot to me because I've had family members who have served. I had a grandpa who served in World War II, and he came home with a lot of problems, and he couldn't do some things after the war like for example, be around fireworks. He couldn't be around fireworks because it would just not so good memories. But there's what Memorial Day means to me. It's a very solemn holiday. It's not a go have fun, have burgers with everyone and just have a good time. I think it's very important that we remember how much servicemen and women have been lost over the wars that America has been through, and just remember that their sacrifice, that freedom is not free, and that sacrifice is a lot of what this country was built on. And I think it's very important that we remember that those women fought for your freedom, freedom to go walk the street without any bad things happening to you. I think that's very important that we remember their service and remember the courage that they brought to our country, because they protected a lot.
And it's great to have a president at the White House that is all about law and order specifically when it comes to those streets as well. Speaking of the president, I know that on your Truth Social account, I think it's still pinned there, you met President Donald J. Trump. Tell us what that was like.
Yes, Matt. President Trump worked for his campaign during the Iowa caucuses. I made 95,000 phone calls. I placed second in the whole entire state of Iowa out of all volunteers. And my friend called me up one day and said, "Hey, Dylan, the president is having an event in my part of the state, and if you bring me a few friends, I can get you a picture with him." So I'm like, okay, cool. So I brought 3 friends with me. One of them declined, and they shouldn't have declined because that was a bad. But all 3 of my friends got to meet the president that day, and we basically helped out with all the things he needed, and it was a very great time. The president was very gracious. He was very welcoming, and it was such a good time. And he's a very great man, and I just can't stand when the media talks about him in a bad light, because he's really not a bad person. He is a very great person.
And one of the greatest presidents of our lifetime. I mean,
yes.
The things that he did back from 2015, 2016, 2017, all the years, man. Just an outsider. So great to see that. And you seem like you're an outsider in a way too. I mean, you're a patriot. You're Gen Z. You're saying, you know what? I'm going to go run for office, and that's what's awesome to see. So June 2nd is that the primary, right, for you guys?
Yes, it is, and I think that's a primary for California and a few other states. So there's a lot of good primaries that day to watch out for. Currently, we have 5 candidates running for governor, and if one candidate doesn't get above 35%, it's going to go to convention, which means basically me as a delegate, I will have to vote on who our nominee is. But I think it's a very important primary to watch here in Iowa, because if we don't elect the right Republican nominee, we might end up with a Democrat governor, which, by the way, the Democrat nominee for the state of Iowa is funded by Reid Hoffman, and he's also funded by J.B. Pritzker. J.B. Pritzker gave him $100,000 for this campaign. It's unbelievable.
Well, we know that those names are not on the right side of history, but thank you that you are on the right side of history there. Dylan Filion, the Iowa State House candidate. Thank you again, Dylan, for joining us. Thanks for what you're doing for the country, and keep on keeping on, man.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you. Always good to see people that are in their 20s, 30s, running for office. I mean, you think about back in the day, our founding fathers, how old were they, right? In their late 20s, 30s, that kind of thing. So great to see some patriots and youth out there doing great things for this country. And those of you watching right now, thanks so much for live streaming and also watching on replay. I saw someone on Truth Social ask for us to replay the George Washington video that we started with at the top of the broadcast. We may do that only if the cabinet meeting is delayed. It's scheduled for literally 2 minutes, actually a minute from now. So we may get to it, but if not, of course, you can always scrub back or replay the top of the broadcast after the cabinet meeting as well. Let's go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Of course, a great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, more than 1 million users, and that number is growing. Of course, you could use the QR code. You could go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. You could download the app 3 ways to get to Kalshi, and there are a lot of trending political topics out there, even about the 2028 presidential election, the midterms, the Strait of Hormuz, the mayoral election in Los Angeles, the gubernatorial race in California, of course, between you have Steve Hilton, who is endorsed by President Trump. You have Chad Bianco, the Riverside County Sheriff. So we'll see what happens in the Golden State. Hopefully a win for Spencer Pratt, in my opinion, in Los Angeles. And then I'll take any Republican that's on the right side of history in Sacramento as well. So you can chime in if you'd like. Go to kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, let's talk about Cove Pier. You know, we talk about Cove Pier quite a bit because if you remember those water scares in Flint, Michigan, and then the whole train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, if those two horrible events weren't enough to get you to make the switch, well, this might, because more than 176 million Americans are drinking tap water with PFAs in it. They're man-made chemicals used in food packaging, nonstick cookware, firefighting foam. Scientists call them forever chemicals because once they're in your body, they stay there, they don't break down, and then they're linked to hormone disruption, immune damage, and increased cancer risk. But here's the part that should make you and yours upset, because the EPA set legal limits for PFAS in drinking water back in 2024, but then the water systems have until 2031 to comply. That's a whole 5 years from now, and until that deadline arrives, the utility can be operating above the legal limit when it comes to these PFAS, and they're not really required to notify you about it. You're just drinking that water. And you know, that's why every single household needs Cove Pier, because the government knows these chemicals are harmful enough to regulate. They're just not making anyone act on it quite yet. Recently, EPA Administrator, though, Lee Zeldin, announced a $1 billion grant for smaller communities to get rid of forever chemicals. So it's on everybody's radar. But right now, with this product, you're able to cut to the chase. Because in the meantime, if you want clean, healthy water, you're going to have to do it yourself. Now, Cove Pier was engineered exactly for this. Unlike the normal pitcher filters you get at the store, their ClearWave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants, those PFAS, heavy metals, fluoride, pharmaceuticals. This product filters particles hundreds of thousands of times smaller than a single human hair. And the best part about Cove Pier is they make it so easy, it sits right on your countertop. You don't have to drill any holes or call someone in to install it. You just plug it in. You can even get whatever temperature water you want, hot, cold, or warm, with a tap of a button. Don't wait till 2031. You can take control of your water quality right now. Head to covepier.com/RSBN, and because you're a viewer of this broadcast, you get $250 off right now. That's covepier.com/RSBN. All right, it's the top of the hour. We're going to take one more commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Good morning once again. Welcome back into RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Now, within the hour, maybe in the next few minutes, we'll see that live feed as President Trump will hold that cabinet meeting at the White House. If you are really glued to news and politics, you may have heard that the cabinet meeting was to be held in Camp David in Maryland. Well, due to the weather that a number of us have experienced over the past 24 to 48 hours and even through today, That was postponed, so now the cabinet room will be the site of this cabinet meeting with the president. So as soon as we see that live feed, we'll take you there. In the meantime, I want to show you a post from someone on Truth Social here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. This is kind of proof that we are watching what you're saying as well, whether it's live interactions or various posts that we see out there. As soon as we get that on the screen, we'll show it to you. There it is. Matthew, can RSBN please repeat the George Washington story so those of us who have to miss it can watch later? Thank you. Well, yes, I know that you mean a little bit later, but right now, since we're a little bit into a delay, we have a possible live interview coming to the show here in just a second. While we get that in its works, why don't we replay that for you as we are on standby here for the president. Let's go to the first president of the United States, and more about that from the White House, George Washington.
First in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. Light Horse Harry Lee's words from the official eulogy of George Washington were once famous. Nowadays, we usually think of Washington as the granite figure on Mount Rushmore, or Gilbert Stuart's famous painting, solemn and distant. But at the time of the American Revolution, 43-year-old George Washington was in the prime of his life, battle-tested, strong and vigorous. At 6 foot 2 inches, he was a natural leader of men. Washington did not write the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution or the Federalist Papers. Yet his defiant, inspiring, and commanding writings far outweigh those of his contemporaries. As a military general, he lost more battles than he won. Yet Washington fearlessly led an untrained army to defeat the greatest military power in the world. If the Declaration of Independence was an expression of the American mind, as Jefferson called it, George Washington was its embodiment. He brought the revolution's principles to life, and in doing so brought this country into being. This was the man who founded America. George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, near Pope's Creek in Westmoreland County, Virginia. The first of 6 children of Augustine and Mary Ball Washington. What he learned came mostly from self-study and practical experience. He knew the Bible and Shakespeare, read Seneca and Cicero, and studied history in the political writings of the day. As a young man, Washington was a surveyor and traveled extensively in the area west of the Appalachian Mountains. He wanted to join the British Navy, but his mother objected. At the age of 21, Washington sought a commission and was appointed by the British as a major in the militia. Later, as a lieutenant colonel, his regiment was sent to the Ohio Valley to challenge a French incursion. The resulting skirmishes marked the opening of the French and Indian War. Since he could advance no further in British ranks, being a colonial subject, Washington resigned his commission and instead volunteered as an aide to General Edward Braddock, who led a British expedition to expel the French from Fort Duquesne. When they were ambushed and Braddock was mortally wounded, it was Washington, with 2 horses shot from under him and his clothes pierced by 4 musket balls, who rallied the panicked troops and formed a rear guard, allowing the remaining force to retreat. After that, he was appointed colonel of the Provincial Virginia Regiment, which made him the highest-ranking American military officer in the colony. In 1758, Washington was elected a member of the House of Burgesses. The next year, he married the young widow, Martha Custis, who would be his wife for the next 40 years. And they established their home at Mount Vernon. He served as a vestryman in their nearby Anglican parish. Washington had inherited slaves, and more came with his marriage, but he eventually opposed slavery, wished to see its abolition, and in his will, upon Martha's death, freed his slaves. As the colonial crisis heated up, Washington sponsored a series of resolutions denying the right of the British Parliament to tax the colonists. And along with George Mason.
All right, so we'll have more of that video a little bit later. And if you just missed it, all you have to do is go to the top of this broadcast after the cabinet meeting, of course, and you can check out that George Washington video in full. Quite the video posted by the White House as we're celebrating our 250th coming up in less than 2 months from now. As we await the cabinet meeting, let's go to Ambassador Carla Sands, who joins us live right now. Thanks so much for joining us, Ambassador.
Thanks for having me, Matthew. It's a great day in America.
Definitely. And we didn't get a chance to talk on Monday, Memorial Day. Your thoughts about America 250, Memorial Day, and this being Military Appreciation Month as well.
Yes, our country is a nation thanks to our heroes who died in the Revolutionary War. And then we stayed a united country thanks to the heroes who gave their all in the Civil War. And no other country has fought to free slaves. We literally had a battle between the North and the South in our country. And so to think about the heroes throughout the generations and centuries in America who have died for our freedom, it's a very special thing. My own ancestors fought in the American Revolution and in the Civil War. My grandfathers, they served, but they did not give their lives. And the Memorial Day, that day was honoring our fallen heroes. And whether you've had family serve or not, we all owe them a debt of gratitude because that's why we have our freedoms.
Exactly. Let's talk about Pennsylvania a bit. I know that's where you're from and working with America First Policy Institute there and all of the history in Pennsylvania alone. Obviously, Philadelphia with Independence Hall and Gettysburg with the Civil War. Have you been to the battlefield there before? And have you been to Independence Hall? Tell us about your experiences as we get ready to celebrate America 250.
Absolutely, Matthew. It's my pleasure to talk to your viewers about these things because during this year, this 250th celebration, what a time to put your kids in the car and drive to somewhere like Philadelphia or Gettysburg or other places along our country that have significant sites where we honor our country's history, especially Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where the signing of our Declaration took place, where the Continental Congress met and they deliberated over what we're going to be, how are we going to create this nation, knowing all that they knew about the great thinkers from the times of Greece, the Greek philosophers, the Roman law, and the great Roman thinkers and Stoics that they all read about. I mean, most of them could read Greek, they could read Latin. They were scholars of history, and they understood the pitfalls that countries could fall in if, for instance, the small states did not have a voice. And that's why they set up the Senate. So they really put a lot of protections in, the First Amendment being the freedom of speech. They understood because the king back in England or other countries could stop their freedom of speech or freedom of expression, freedom of religion. Most countries had a state religion and oppressed or even killed people that had a different religion. And so my own family experienced that back in Europe. And so to come to the United States, then the colonies, and seeking that religious freedom, that was a big part of our founding. But put your kids in the car, go see an American site, whether it's the beautiful sites in Yosemite or a historic landmark that you can go visit. And we have a website, Freedom 250. We have great people from the Trump administration and outside of the Trump administration, people like Keith Kroc, the former CEO of DocuSign, who's the CEO of Freedom 250. And these people are all working to make an incredible experience for Americans as we explore our precious homeland during this awesome 250th celebration.
Yeah, and it's awesome that in Philadelphia, in Independence Hall, you can be in the actual room where our founders were. It's quite the experience there. And then just a few yards away from Independence Hall sits the Liberty Bell as well. Yes. So if you've never been to Philadelphia, definitely those are a couple great things to see. If you're watching from Idaho or Arizona right now, I understand not going to Philadelphia over the weekend, but quite the trip to do so. But we had Julia Friedland on from Freedom 250 earlier in the broadcast. She talked about the Great American State Fair that's happening June 25th through July 10th. And they named a number of headliners, and it's just going to be a great, great time there in Washington, D.C. Do you have plans, obviously, for July 4th, but will you stay in your home state? Will you be traveling a little bit? What do you think's going on?
I'm definitely going to visit the National Mall during that period and see all these state exhibitions, every state and territory. So you can be from Puerto Rico or, any territory of the U.S. will have their own exhibition booth, and every state is pulling out all the stops, so you're going to get a really cool experience, almost like if you go to Disneyland and you can see all the different countries and experiences. This is like better than Disneyland. This is America's 250th, and other companies are also going to be exhibiting. There's going to be a space exhibit, so they're building it out now. I saw the construction going on, and you can again fly into DC or put your kids in the car. There's plenty of hotels, even in the surrounding communities, and you can come and spend the day on our nation's mall. You own it. You literally own it. This is, if they call it public or government, that's you, because we, the people, we own everything. It's not owned by a king or by any president. It's owned by the people. And thank goodness we have President Trump who really knows that and embraces the idea that he's the president for all people.
And then let's shift there and talk about Washington, D.C., the beautification that we're seeing there, the safety increase that we're seeing there, thanks to the National Guard and law enforcement. The reflecting pool is going to look, going from this gray murkiness to this bright, beautiful blue, American flag blue, according to the president. So let's talk about the safety aspect, though, in D.C. I have not been there since the National Guard has been dispatched to that area. I'm looking forward to checking it out now that it's much safer and it looks a lot better, too.
It does look better. They're cleaning all the buildings. And thank goodness President Trump is president right now, because the beautification and safety increase is really important for tourists that want to come and visit our nation's capital. The buildings are gorgeous. You can go online and sign up to have tours of many of the buildings. So I hope you do that if you have an interest in the architecture or in the history of these different departments, whether it's the Interior Department or the archives. But we also, through these big, beautiful buses, they're traveling the country, and they're going to have exhibitions in each one. They're even taking the Constitution, which I think is the first time it's ever left Washington, D.C., and they're going throughout the country so that you can go online on Freedom 250 and find your hometown and find out what's going to be there or near to you. So you don't have to travel a great distance if you don't want to. You can go see things in your state.
Yeah, exactly. These artifacts, this history that you can see right there in person, whether it's the Freedom plane, which I think is awesome. I love aviation. Awesome. I post about, the Independence One plane. Did you see that one with 1776 emblazoned on the side, the Southwest plane?
I have not seen it yet. I'll look for it.
Yeah, that one's cool. Then you have the Freedom plane out there. Then you have the Freedom truck that's going across the country.
Yeah, the Freedom trucks.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Now, that's all that 33,000 foot view stuff. Let's dive into, and I think it's always important to talk about the Save America Act, even if the momentum on Capitol Hill right now is kind of not there, to be honest. Your thoughts about that, Carla?
Well, I know that the grassroots have become really disappointed that there hasn't been more momentum. Senator Mike Lee and a few other senators really pushed it hard. They worked really hard to get it over the hump to pass it, because it will energize our base for the 2026 election, but also because it's so bipartisan to secure our elections. It has like an 85% approval rating across the board. But now with these few recent elections where Senator Cassidy lost his race, where John Cornyn just lost his race last night, I do believe the senators may have found a renewed faith to pass the Save America Act if they want to continue to serve. I don't think the base is going to tolerate anymore these squishy people that don't listen to the voters. And, I think that Leader Thune is going to have his work cut out for him, but I think he's going to have to really go and knock some heads together to get this thing passed. I think it is the president's #1 bill. I think it's most grassroots Republicans' #1 bill, but it's also the Democrats want it. I mean, what could be better than to make this happen? And now I think the Republicans will have hopefully a fire lit under them.
Exactly. And to your point, people can be primaried. It's simple as that. We saw some of that just yesterday in various states. I want to get your take on the midterm national convention that may be happening sometime this year. Did you hear any
word? It is happening.
Okay, so it is happening, but we don't know a
Yes.
location. We don't know a time frame. I'm assuming after the July 4th America 250 celebration. Have you heard any word on when and where this will happen?
You know, I was talking with someone about it. It is absolutely happening, and I can't remember where it's happening. I'm sorry. But as soon as it goes public, you know, I'm sure that you're going to be one of the first to know, and you can share it with your viewers, because this is really exciting. President Trump is a communicator like probably no president before him. And so he's going to be out there on the trail working to win in the midterm so that we can have this America First agenda for 4 years. And then if we can get a Republican president elected, probably J.D. Vance, but elected it for, you know, another 4 or 8 years, then we can really solidify the idea that we are an America First country and not a country that puts our citizens second or third.
Amen to that. Ambassador Carla Sands joining us live right now. Thanks again for your insight and your friendship to the network.
Thanks. Great to be with you, Matthew.
You too, Carla. Thank you. All right, good stuff. 11:21 Eastern Time. We are awaiting the live cabinet room meeting there with President Trump. Let's go to some of our sponsors in the meantime. All Family Pharmacy. Americans, of course, are tired of being told to wait or jump through endless hoops just to access the medications they may already know that they need. So if your health is your responsibility, right? Why does it feel like someone else is always in control of it? That's why more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy, this great American independent pharmacy, because whether it's everyday maintenance medications or common antibiotics or simply being prepared before travel or emergencies, All Family Pharmacy makes the process simple, fast, and secure. No crowded waiting rooms, no unnecessary hassle, just a convenient way to order your medications online from a trusted U.S. pharmacy focused on helping families stay prepared. Because the reality is shortages happen, delays happen, emergencies happen, and peace of mind, of course, starts with being proactive instead of reactive. It's 10% of what really happens to you, and 90% is how you react, right? Well, right now, when you visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, and you could use promo code RSBN10 to save 10% off your order, because being prepared, that's not an extreme thing to do, right? It's common sense. So just visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and use that RSBN10 promo code at checkout. Great company, great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's also go to this, Tax Network USA, because there are a number of financial questions that people are facing these days. Do you still owe back taxes or have unfiled tax returns? Or have you filed every year but you still keep owing? Did you retire and suddenly get hit with a tax bill you didn't expect? Or are you a business owner out there with some messy books and a balance you just can't afford? Or maybe you pulled money from a 401k or an IRA early and now the IRS wants its share. However your tax issue started, the outcome, unfortunately, is the same. Your balance is just not going down. Your penalties are growing, your interest compounds, and many of you are about to owe again for this upcoming tax year with no plan in place. So the IRS is not waiting. The IRS is enforcing collections through wage garnishments, bank levies, and property seizures. They can even file for you without your consent. But this is where Tax Network USA comes in. With that more than 15 years in business, there really hasn't been a tax case they haven't seen or resolved. They specialize in tax controversies and help taxpayers nationwide get back on track by resolving back taxes and unfiled returns once and for all. So whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. And they can do the same for you, but you have to call now. They're offering a free investigation call with the IRS. And after that investigation, what they do is they put a clear case plan in place to resolve your tax problem and get you back on track. So this is really about using your legal rights to take control before the government sets the terms for you. So don't wait for another IRS letter or a frozen bank account. Just call 877-479-6503. Again, that's 877-479-6503, or just go to tnusa.com/RSBN. We are live here on Right Side. Looking forward to this cabinet meeting. Scheduled originally for 11 a.m. They were to go to Camp David in Maryland, but as some of you have noticed, there's been some inclement weather over the past 24 to 48 hours and throughout the day. So that trip postponed to Camp David. There was going to be a full cabinet meeting from Camp David. To be honest with you, I didn't know if it was going to be live from Camp David if we were to have that live feed, or if that would have been a closed press event. But needless to say, it is an open press event today because it's back at the White House, as President Trump posted about this on Truth Social just yesterday. So we'll go to that cabinet meeting as soon as we see that live feed. In the meantime, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thanks again for live streaming in. As soon as we see the cabinet meeting, we'll take you there. In the meantime, if you missed it on Monday, of course, Memorial Day, a lot of viewers watched our live feed, of course, as we heard from President Trump and we heard from the Vice President, the Secretary of War, and just really one way to pay our respects, since myself and most of you, we're not in D.C. at Arlington National Cemetery, so we found a way to do that on Monday. Speaking of Monday and speaking of military, let's go to Pennsylvania. State Senator Doug Mastriano, in case you missed it. And if you didn't miss it, if you've seen the interview, again, it's great to talk about patriotism, America 250, Memorial Day, and the like, as we await that cabinet meeting in Washington. And joining us now from Pennsylvania is State Senator Doug Mastriano. Thanks again for joining us, Senator.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's great to see you.
Definitely. Great to see you as well. Thank you for your service. Let's talk about Memorial Day, what it means to you, and also as we get ready to celebrate our nation's 250th anniversary.
Yeah, I think this is really a special Memorial Day. It's more than the beginning of summer. It's more than a 3 or 4 day weekend, depending on your job situation. And it's about pausing and remembering, and especially this year, I mean, every year. You think about the families, the Gold Star mothers, the Gold Star families who lost a loved one in conflict. And it's to honor their sacrifice and to remind us of the freedoms we have and how we got here. I think it's critical and imperative to pause and to remember and to focus in on how can we leave the nation a little bit better off. Congratulations on your second baby. God has blessed you. How can we leave the nation better off for your kids and our grandkids? That's our responsibility.
Amen. Exactly. And let's shift over to something that you're very familiar with, the Gettysburg National Military Park there. Let's talk about that. I mean, just being there, that's one way people really pay their respects as well. I mean, you think about wars, and those are definitely our great people there that died in that war. So talk to us about Gettysburg a little bit.
Thank you. It's in my Senate district. I what an honor to represent, the Gettysburg battlefield, being in Adams County. I represent Adams and Franklin County. And to go on the battlefield, I remember I used to be a professor at the Army War College and gave many tours, like up to 500 tours, many hundreds of tours on behalf of the Army. And one day I had agreed to give a tour the day after returning from an exercise in the Baltic. 17 hours of travel to come home. I was bent out. I was spent. I was jet lagged. And I was like, why did you agree to do this? As I'm driving to the tour to give the battlefield early next morning. And then when I came in on the ridge there, I saw Buford, his statue. I saw General Reynolds on horseback. It's the first things that greet you as you come from Chambersburg, near where I live. And my spirits revived because everything the battlefield means. It's the bloodiest battle in North America. 50,000 casualties over 3 days. And the sacrifice, the stories, men laid it on the line here to save our nation. There's bayonet attacks that happened, for Pennsylvania and for our nation. And it seemed like, why? You were defeated. But it bought time for another unit, the 20th Maine, a Little Round Top, to form up to defend that hill. You think about Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain at the base Little Round Top here, outnumbered 3-1 by great soldiers from Alabama. And out of ammunition, down to 200 men. And he led this brilliant bayonet attack that saved our nation here, and not knowing if he'd be successful. Somebody he was called a stupid fool growing up. He had a severe stuttering problem in his youth, and God raised him up to save our nation. God is looking for men and women like Chamberlain, like General Howard, and Sergeant York in World War I to save our nation, to stand in the gap so that our children and grandchildren can enjoy the same freedoms that we did.
The fact that that's your district, specifically the Gettysburg battlefield, specifically the great Abraham Lincoln, our
yes.
wonderful president, spoke there, giving that Gettysburg address, a government of and by, for the people shall not perish from this land. I'm sure you did exactly what I did, and you stood as close as you could to where he may have given that speech. What's that like to stand there, sir, and to think, those words are still living to this day?
I mean, so it's by the Kentucky Monument in the National Cemetery. And you're right, you can stand there. And you stand there and you think, when Lincoln said on 19 November 1863, 4 months after the battle, and he said you could still smell the stench of death in the air in Gettysburg. But when he said, rather, after he honored the dead, who made everything possible for our nation, but he goes, rather it is for us, the living, to be dedicated to the unfinished work. In 1787 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, during the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin was asked by Mrs. Powell, a famous socialite in Philadelphia, well, Mr. Powell, what do we have, a monarchy or republic? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. And then when Lincoln said, rather it's for us to be dedicated to the unfinished work, this work is never finished. And the day that we grow weary and sit back and allow our freedoms to be stripped away, as they nearly were in 2020, that's the day we lose our nation. Ronald Reagan said, it only takes a generation to end our republic, to end our freedoms, he specifically said. And he's right. So we have to be vigilant. And it's focusing on Memorial Day for our soldiers, our airmen, our sailors, Marines, and Coast Guardians, and the Guardians, also in the Space Force. But, think beyond. That's critical. It's imperative. But think beyond. What can you do to ensure this republic stands?
Exactly. That leads me to my next question. Let's dive into that a little bit. Of course, I've nothing but respect for you, your service, what you've done for this country, what you're doing for this country. And then on top of that, a lot of people are listening to what you have to say on X. You've got a lot of followers on there too. So what can be done to preserve our freedom for another 250 years? Would it be to start passing the Save America Act? I mean, what needs to be done to keep our freedoms intact?
Clearly what Donald Trump is doing here is designed to save our nation. For far too long, so few Americans got into the arena, because I remember when I was retiring from the Army, that's all I wanted to do, Matthew, to serve in the Army. And then I got too old, and the Army's like, mandatory retirement, you need to, let the younger people come in behind you. And I was complaining about my the situation for the country as retired, less freedoms, less, more burdens, more taxation. And as I was complaining, and it's so easy, blame the people in D.C. or Harrisburg, respectively. And then this young man looked over at me on this small radio station in Chambersburg and said, well, Colonel, I was in uniform. Well, Colonel, do something about it. And so that triggered us getting into politics and calling on more people to get into the arena, as Teddy Roosevelt would have it. Stop complaining. if you're not voting, you have no right to complain in my book. I mean, you can do whatever you want. It's America. But if you can't even vote, don't even bother complaining because you're part of the problem. So vote. And if you see an opportunity to serve in politics, that icky world, then maybe God is calling you for such a time as this.
And on top of that, in the information war that we find ourselves in, because we know that the mainstream media, the leftists, they want to just shut people like you down. They don't want you saying what you say on X, right?
Yeah, I mean, I dedicate him. I'm no one special. I'm no hero, but I did serve with heroes, around the world. But it's disheartening when you serve your country fully for 30 years, willing to put your life on the line, deploying the combat zones, many times. And once again, I'm no hero, but that was my job and I loved it. But then to come back and be called Christian nationalist, a way for the left to call you basically a Nazi. And I don't mean to denigrate what happened in the Holocaust for our Jewish viewers here, but that's their intention, to call you some kind of ridiculous radical. And it's just somebody who loves his country. And I'm asking, viewers, you're going to get to hate. They're going to oppress you and call you names. And it's not fun, especially, being an officer, you're worried about your reputation, and the media just blankets you with crap here to try to shut you up. What's the purpose? Think about our country, the freedoms. It's the bright shining light on the hill that Ronald Reagan talked about here. Think about your children and grandchildren as well. What legacy will we leave them? Do we want freedom to endure? And if so, then absorb the shock and the hate and even the politicization of the Department of Justice in many cases, and press on towards the goal.
That's exactly right. You're inspiring me a lot right now, sir. I mean, you think about truth, you think about our beliefs, of course, are in Jesus Christ of Nazareth, our Christian faith. And so we know that the truth has always been getting, some hate. It's because it's true. And, I'm just glad that you're on the right side of history. I'm on the right side of history. Most of our viewers are, and hopefully more people will join us. Because again, let's just close it up with, it's common sense, isn't it? Isn't this all about God, family, and country?
Jesus said in John chapter 14, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. That's who he is. And he is, no one gets to the Father but through him. And, facts are stubborn things. On the wall of the house in Harrisburg, the State House, it says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. That's from, the same gospel. And one last final thought here to wrap a ribbon on this is that, Jesus also said, greater love has no one than this, but to lay down his life for a friend. Our veterans do that. Our first responders do that. Our police do that. And think about them this Memorial Day and the sacrifice and daily commitment they have and they make here to ensure that we could walk as free men and women. Our motto during the reopen movement here in Pennsylvania was John 8:36. If the Son set you free, you're free indeed. If Jesus set you free, you'll know freedom. And freedom is all about everything our nation was built upon.
Walk as a free people, right? So Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano, thanks again for joining us, your insight, your friendship. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me on. God bless you.
God bless you, sir. Great to catch up with the state senator there. And then we also interviewed a state senator out of West Virginia, Chris Rose. We may have time to get to that, but we have a little bit to get to. Of course, as soon as we see that live feed at the White House, we'll take you to the cabinet meeting. In the meantime, Americans, of course, are tired of being told to wait or jump through endless hoops just to access the medications they may already know they need. So if your health is your responsibility, why does it feel like someone else is always in control? That's why more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. Whether it's everyday maintenance medications, common antibiotics, or simply being prepared before travel or emergencies, All Family Pharmacy makes the process simple, fast, and secure. No crowded waiting rooms, no unnecessary hassle, just a convenient way to order your medications online from a trusted U.S. pharmacy that is focused on helping families stay prepared. Because as you know, the reality is shortages happen, delays happen, emergencies, unfortunately, they happen. And peace of mind starts with being proactive instead of reactive. So right now, when you visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and use that RSBN 10 promo code, you'll save 10% off your order. Of course, being prepared isn't extreme, it's common sense. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, RSBN 10. You can use that at checkout for All Family Pharmacy. All right, let's go to our next sponsor here on Right Side, Birch Gold Group. When there are those supply constraints on commodities, prices, of course, they surge. You saw it with the fuel prices when the Strait of Hormuz was blockaded. We also know that gold is a limited commodity, of course. They mine it out of the ground, and when it's gone, it's simply gone. Governments can't just print more of it. And that's why everyone from central banks to savvy savers are diversified with gold. So if you've been thinking about it for years but have still never moved some of your savings into physical gold, Birch Gold Group is who we trust to help you. Now through May 29th, Birch Gold is giving first-time gold buyers a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. For details and a free information kit on diversifying into gold, just text Trump to that number you see there on the screen, 989898. Birch Gold can actually help you convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Text Trump to the number 989898. This is to see if you qualify for that first-time gold buyer rebate of up to $10,000, and then on top of that, you'll get that free info kit when it comes to precious metals right there. Birch Gold Group, great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're going to go to our live chat at this point. Let's see what everybody's saying on Right Side Broadcasting Network, specifically as we await the President of the United States. Of course, the cabinet meeting was to be taking place, but of course the weather postponed that. If you've been following President Trump's Truth Social posts out there. So we're going to get into some of the questions here. Specifically, if you had a direct message to President Trump, what would you like to say to him? And then how about what would you like to see come out of this cabinet meeting? And also, how has the mainstream media coverage been, if you've been watching it all? I know I kind of look for a second, but I don't care what they're saying over there because they lie a lot of the time, or they just don't cover things. But anyway, let's say hello to you guys out there. We're going to check the chat here live on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Again, as we await this live cabinet meeting on Right Side Broadcasting Network. So let's see what people are saying right now. Of course, somebody's saying the Trump train there. Good morning, Matthew. Hi there. Good morning, Patriots. We're going to send Hunter Biden in and tell him that it's that it's cocaine. Wow, a lot of different posts there on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're going to keep taking a look at that live here right now. Of course, William Jones saying, we need Jesus. Amen to that right there. We're going to continue on with some of our live feed here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. As of right now, where's everybody watching from? Of course, an easy question to ask as we are live on Right Side from coast to coast. Thanks so much for watching, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or in that Central Time Zone, Mountain Time Zone, or maybe you're watching outside the country, which is something we see here on occasion on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Of course, getting ready to go to the cabinet meeting as soon as it starts. Now, it was scheduled for 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It's 11:41, but as I mentioned earlier, if you remember, I was highly doubting it would start at 11 because we know that it takes a number of minutes to get the cabinet secretaries and everybody all together with all the security teams and all of that into one room at that White House. Then you call in the media, and then it's go time. Always interesting to watch the cabinet meetings here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And as mentioned previously, of course, President Trump, super unprecedented when it comes to the amount of access you get to a president. I don't know if I've seen the Oval Office so much, and the cabinet room, and the East Room of the White House, and the press conferences that happen. Looking forward to Carolyn Levitt returning. I'm not sure when that will happen. Of course, congratulations to her on her new baby. But we'll be looking forward to seeing when Carolyn Levitt comes back to that podium. Of course, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, and the Vice President have held down the fort there at the podium. People watching from Alabama, Hawaii, of course, looking on the side of the screen here, Norristown, Pennsylvania, West Virginia for Trump. Watching from Germany, hello to you. Phoenix, MAGA 100%, Las Vegas, Nevada. Watching from Flaming Red, South Carolina. Thanks so much for watching here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. It says, oh, look, we're on Matthew's screen. Hi, Matthew. Well, hello to you. And I'm going to be really transparent about this, guys. You know, as a news guy over the years, I didn't do much of the live chat interaction flow because it's just not the way it is done on mainstream media. And you do something for more than 2 decades, you get used to a certain way. But I'm glad to obviously include you guys here on this chat because this is what we do when we're live in the field anyway. If you recall any of the live Trump rallies that I've been covering over the years since 2022, I joined here at Right Side back September 3rd of 2022 in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pennsylvania. And I always have fun interacting with you guys in person. This is a little bit different for me, to be honest, but hey, I like it. It's all good. Maine saying hello. North Carolina, Georgia. Congratulations, Matthew, on your new baby. Thank you so much. And thank God for coffee, too. Jamaica, Sweden, Michigan, watching from India. Ruth is watching from California. How about Tulsa, Oklahoma? You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome because think about it. Every county voted red over the past several elections. Same thing with West Virginia. This person says, love this. Okay, cool. Sacramento, Canada for Trump. Go Trump. Matthew, laughing out loud. David Larson, I know you're a rock star. You're always on there saying some great things. Aloha from Volcano, Hawaii. Doge, Hawaii. Watching from the great state of Indiana. The media engaging is so much better. Okay, cool. All right, this is on the fly. You know, this is training on the fly right now, live here on Right Side. Michigan for Trump. All right, this is kind of cool. We'll have to get into some more information here. Let's do this. Let's go to a commercial break. We're going to maybe post a question on there for you to interact so we can dive into some things like the Save America Act, or maybe what you'd like to say to President Trump, or what do you want to see out of this cabinet meeting? I mean, 2026, of course, July 4th, around the corner-ish, as we get ready to celebrate our 250th anniversary. So let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. You're looking live at a number of great patriots posting some great things, Make America Great Again and Save America Act. Hopefully it'll pass, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think we started something interesting here in the sense of, I know that other people do this and other maybe broadcasts or podcasts or whatever. This is just a first for me and I kind of like it. It's kind of fun. So wait till we get into some more fun questions too. But also, guys, you know, there's a lot of serious things going on in the world as well. So we can kind of journey together. And I like that because, again, we talk about we the people a lot here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We interview you guys out there at all of those events. So why not bring it all together right here live on the network as well? Good stuff. I like it. Speaking of liking it, how about West Virginia? The state senator there, Chris Rose, we spoke with him on Memorial Day. We're going to take a look at that video in the meantime as we await the cabinet meeting in D.C. Joining us now here on Right Side Broadcasting Network is West Virginia State Senator Chris Rose. Senator, thank you again for joining us.
Pleasure as always, Matt. Thank you for having me on.
You are a great patriot there in the Mountaineer State. So, you know, one of the questions that we're asking a number of our guests today, what does Memorial Day mean to you as we get ready to celebrate our nation's 250th anniversary?
You're absolutely right. You got a big birthday coming up for America, 250. But Memorial Day to me is a day to remember the most important heroes in American history, those who have paid the ultimate price for the freedom that you and I enjoy here today. You know, people say that we live in an era where there are no heroes. You know, to quote Ronald Reagan, they simply just don't know where to look. You know, whether it's, you know, the Arlington National Cemetery, or here in West Virginia, we have the Grafton Cemetery. There's so many patriots, so many veterans have been willing to lay down their lives and pay the ultimate sacrifice so America could still be the greatest nation in the world and still be free here today. And that's what it means to me. Somebody who comes from a family of veterans, my brother, my uncles, my grandfathers all served in the Great World Wars and Vietnam and all the way down to Operation Iraqi Freedom. I say thank you to them, but also more importantly to those that didn't make it back home.
Exactly. And that's what today's all about. But what can be done as well to preserve our freedom for another 250 years? Would it be passing the Save America Act? What's your opinion on that?
So first and foremost, you actually took my first talking point away. That would be the Save America Act. The fact that the U.S. Senate has had this in their hands for numerous days now, several weeks now. It's getting pretty pathetic, if you ask me, which is why you see President Trump coming out and endorsing, Ken Paxton over Cornyn. You're starting to see that frustration bleed out into these Republican primaries because this is a slam dunk. Over 80% of Americans across party lines, all the way across, no matter which political affiliation they are, want the Save America Act. They believe you should have an ID to vote. You have to have an ID to drive. You have to have an ID to fly. You have to have an ID to buy a gun, but you don't have to have one to vote. The most important action we get to do as a civic duty as an American citizen, which is decide who's going to help, guide this republic and make those important decisions. We're not going to have an ID to verify who's voting. But in addition to that, we need to codify the Trump executive orders. It's very important, because we don't know what's going to happen in 28 and going forward. I'm pretty confident we'll win the presidency in 28, but you don't want to take it for granted. We have to codify the America First agenda that has been laid out by this president, and we have to do it sooner than later because you don't even know what the midterms is going to look like. I mean, we're starting to gain momentum going into the midterms, but why take it for granted? That's what we do to preserve this country for the next 250 years, is to codify the America First agenda.
And exactly. And then the last thing we'd want to see is the midterms go the leftist way, the presidential election the same in 28, and then our country might not look the same, at least for that 4-year presidential cycle. But we don't even want to mess with that, do we?
No, you're exactly right. So, it's just like the people that keep saying they don't want to, end the filibuster and pass the Save America Act. Well, let me go ahead and tell you what America looks like if you don't. If you don't do that and the Democrats get back in there, make no mistake about it, they are nuking the filibuster. They are packing the Supreme Court. They're going to undo everything from President Trump all the way back to Ronald Reagan, everything good that has been done in this country. They are going to undo it. They are going to pass a radical leftist communist ideology into law, and it will be hard pressed to ever regain Congress, let alone the Oval Office.
I would argue back to Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln later in the presidential situation there, because they're against our basic freedoms, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. So this is a lot at stake, isn't it?
No, absolutely. So if you want a small preview of what it would be like if they get their way with this, look what's happening in New York City right now with Mondami. That's what you're going to get nationwide if we do not codify the America First agenda, support President Trump, and pass the Save America Act. Because if those type of people, which is, sorry, folks, that is the Democrat Party of today, if those type of people are allowed to get control of Congress and get control of the White House, that is exactly what America's future is.
West Virginia State Senator Chris Rose, thank you again for joining us, your insight, your friendship, and also being a great patriot there in the Mountaineer State.
Thank you. Happy Memorial Day, and God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Amen. All right, so that was in case you missed it, of course, on Monday, as today is Wednesday. We do have a Way Back Wednesday segment that we could replay as well in just a minute. I'm sure we have a couple sponsors to get to as we are on standby right now for that cabinet meeting, originally scheduled for 11 a.m. Of course, it's 11:53 on the East Coast. But again, when you have to bring all of the cabinet secretaries into one room, get the media in there, get everything secure and ready to go, obviously it takes a few minutes. Now, if you were thinking that this was going to be in Camp David, well, there were some reports out there that the cabinet meeting would be in Maryland at Camp David, but due to the weather situations that have been happening throughout the country, especially east of the Mississippi, that was postponed there in Camp David. So, of course, President Trump just holding this White House cabinet meeting right there in the cabinet room. As soon as we see that live feed, we'll take you there. In the meantime, let's do this. Should we go Director, to a sponsor, or should we go to the Way Back Wednesday? Okay, let's go to Tax Network USA, and then we'll try that Way Back Wednesday in just a second. As you see there, 877-479-6503. That's the number to call, because there's a lot of financial questions out there that people are facing these days. Things like, do you owe back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, or have you filed every year but you just still keep owing? How about, did you retire and suddenly get hit with a tax bill you didn't expect? Or are you a business owner with messy books and a balance you can't afford? Maybe you pulled money from your 401k or IRA early and now the IRS wants its share. However your tax issues started, the outcome is the same. The balance just not going down, penalties growing, interest compounds, and a number of people are owing again this year, thanks to President Trump. Not everybody is, but the IRS is not waiting. The IRS is enforcing collections through wage garnishments and other things. So just call 877-479-6503. Hearing that the cabinet meeting is about to start, so we'll pull away from this at this point. We'll talk about Tax Network right after the cabinet meeting there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So for those of you that have been patient, I've been patient too, getting ready to see that camera flip on there. We'll go right to President Trump. As you know, the cabinet meetings are always interesting because, of course, we'll hear from the cabinet secretaries, and usually we hear the back and forth from the press with the commander-in-chief, the 47th president of the United States. So usually a lot of news comes out of this as well. So something we're gladly bringing you here live on Right Side. And of course, if you'd like to follow Right Side Broadcasting Network on Truth Social, it's at RSBN, at RSB Network on X. Let's go to President Trump.
It's been a tremendous period of time for our country, and things are going very well. Number of jobs, we have more people working today than we've ever had before in the history of our country, and many other things. And I have a few words to say to you that I think will be helpful. And last night was incredible, not only Texas, but so many other places, and the numbers were fantastic. And they've really been that way for a year. If you look, it's hundreds of people won, and almost nobody didn't win. So, but last night was very, very powerful. So I'm thrilled to welcome everyone to the 12th cabinet meeting of our administration, and we're doing something that no administration's ever done. We're always letting the press join us because we're very open and transparent. You like the word transparent, but we're more transparent than any administration in history. No, to the best of my knowledge, press has never been invited ever to a cabinet meeting for any reason at all. And it's an honor to have you. This team has achieved more than most other administrations achieve in 8 years. We took the most dangerous, unsafe, violent, and open border in the world. Anywhere in the world, there's no border like the border we had. And created the most secure border in the history of our country. We had no people, 12 months now, no people reported in the last 12 months came in illegally. 0 illegal aliens admitted to the United States in the last 12 months. And those charts are made by, you would say, politically unfriendly people. And the reason they don't come in is because nobody comes up, because they know that they're going to be turned away, and if they get in, they're going to be moved out right away. So it's been 0. You're the one that do the reports. I'm actually surprised by the number because I don't know how it can be 0, but they say it's 0 for the last 12 months. In 2025, we achieved the largest drop in the murder rate ever recorded. So the murder rate was quite high, and we achieved the largest drop in the murder rate ever recorded to the lowest level in 125 years. That's the year 1900. And that's despite the fact that many people came in from prisons and from very rough countries and from mental institutions and from lots of other places, drug dealers and others. They came in illegally during the Biden administration. We've gotten many of them out, but we still have some that we're looking for, quite a few that we're still looking for, but we've gotten over 11,888 murderers were allowed into our country. We've gotten a lot of them out. We've gotten some, we put them in jail. We don't even trust the country to send them because they'll come back in maybe, and we put them in jail. 11,888 murders, more than half of which have committed more than one murder. That's what they allowed, and they can never be forgotten for the horrible things they've done to this country. Fentanyl coming across our border is now down by 61%. 61%. and coming in by water, by sea, by ocean, is down 97%. Can you imagine? Thanks to our Republican majorities in Congress, we passed the largest tax cuts in American history. All Democrats voted against the tax cuts, putting more money in Americans' pockets. This year, the typical family got tax refunds of nearly almost close to $5,000. The stock market has set 68 all-time record highs since the election. So 68 days, we hit all-time highs. We're right there now. And the average 401k, and that's despite the conflict. I don't call it a war, I call it a conflict. Despite the conflict with Venezuela, who no longer has a Navy, no longer has an Air Force, no longer has a lot of people that were leading the country into very bad places. Their leadership is gone. Their second rung leadership is gone, and we're dealing with their third, half of their third, because half of their third is gone too. The average 401k is up almost $30,000 since I took office. So the Americans are benefiting working today. We have the most working, and we have 401ks at their all-time high, highest they've ever been. And that goes along with the stock market, which is the highest it's ever been. Under my most favored nation agreements, this is something that I wish the media would talk about, because to me it's one of the biggest things ever to happen in our country. Certainly as to medical, anything having to do with medical, because drug prices, we're delivering record-setting discounts on prescription drugs with price differences of 400, 500, and even 600% at the TrumpRx.gov. We recently added nearly 1,000 low-cost generics to the website. So we have drugs down 400, 500, 600%. Now you could say 80, 90, 70, 60, 50% if you want. There are two ways. It depends on the way you ask the question. But a pill that would sell in Germany or in, let's say, in London for $10, we're selling for here for $130. And I got the countries to all agree. Otherwise, they would have had to pay big tariffs. I didn't want to go into it, but I had some very interesting discussions. They said vehemently no, and then when I said, that's all right, we're going to charge you a 50% tariff on everything you sell into America, they said, well, like we said, we'll say yes. And every single country agreed, and every drug company agreed. So we have most favored nation. So we were paying the highest drug prices in the world. Now we're paying the lowest drug prices in the world. So that pill that I talked about would go from $10 to $20. The world is bigger than the U.S. Hard to believe, but it's true. So it's not like you cut it in the middle. They just had to go up a little bit, but a little bit is a doubling of a price. So a little bit's a lot. So the pill would go from $10 to $20, and we'd go from $130 to $20. Think of that. So we would get, if you remember, some of you were at the news conference I had in my first term where I got the prices down 1/8%, 1/4% my first term. And I was so proud of it because drug prices hadn't come down in 28 years, and I was the first one to do it. But now I'm getting them down, not 1/8%, I'm getting them down 400, 500, 600. Or if you want to use it a different way, you could say 70%, 80%, 90%, 50%. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I got that through, well, everybody knew it was taking place, but we paid the highest prices anywhere in the world. Now we're paying the lowest prices anywhere in the world, and the press refuses to write about it. I think it's the biggest thing. And for healthcare, so much of it is prescription drug prices and drug prices. And with them coming down, the healthcare is going to come down very substantially. We recently added nearly 1,000 low-cost generics too, as I said, and that's 1,000 drugs, and it's all on. And this was not given by me. This was given by Dr. Oz and Bobby, and I, wasn't sure whether or not I loved the idea, but they said we want to use TrumpRx.gov is what it is, and it's the hottest site I think anywhere on the planet, from what I understand, Bobby. Right? It's really great. People are calling up and they're buying drugs for literally a fraction of the price, and it should be the biggest story. And on that alone, we should win the midterms. On that alone, we should win the midterms. But the press doesn't talk about it. It's the biggest thing to happen in the drug industry ever, maybe. ever, and the press doesn't even want to write stories about it. We made the largest ever investment in U.S. military, $1 trillion, and we're asking actually for $1.5 trillion for the coming year. And we have the strongest military anywhere in the world, as you know. You saw what we did with Venezuela. That worked out very quickly, and we're doing really equally as well with, but again, people don't want to write about it, with Iran. Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job. But their Navy is gone, as I've said 1,000 times. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Everything's gone, and they're negotiating on fumes. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we have to go back and finish it. Maybe we don't. Right now, I mean, you can speak to Steve Witkoff and Jared. They're doing a good job. But right now, I think it looks like they want to just make a deal. They want to. They have. I don't think they have a choice. They're just going back to the internet because they're getting clobbered. Their economy is in free fall. They have 250% inflation. Their money has no value. Their whole economic system is broken down. They thought they were going to outweight me. You know, we'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms. Look what happened last night. That was the prelude to the midterms. People understand it. They know that. Very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I'm doing that for the world. I'm not doing it just for us. And we've had great support from other nations, by the way. We don't need it at all, but we've had great support from other nations. The problem is you always get the support when you don't need it. When you need it, you don't get the support. With Operation Epic Fury, our warriors are ensuring that the world's #1 state sponsor of terror never obtains a nuclear weapon, and they won't. Under the leadership of Vice President J.D. Vance, very proud of this, the White House Task Force to eliminate fraud is waging war on waste, fraud, theft, and abuse like nobody's ever seen before. He looks like Elliot Ness. Do you ever see Elliot Ness? I'm telling you, the guys that are up there, Royal Central Casting, they're standing behind. What a group of people. No, it looks like a movie. I'm going to make a movie out of it, I think. And they're finding billions and billions and billions of dollars. And I just said, that's good. He said, you haven't seen anything yet. Just said that. And, you know, if he does really great, we'll have a balanced budget without having to do anything. This is the kind of money they stole. They're crooks. They're thieves. And I hope that Todd is going to do a real job. These are crooked people. These are thieves. This isn't like a mistake. Just talking about one person, he got hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for securing one man, for taking care of one elderly man. He was a service. He got paid millions of dollars for taking care of one man. Total crook. They're all crooks. The Somalians, what they've done to Minnesota, the Somalians, they're crooked as hell. Ilhan Omar, crooked as hell. They're all crooks. And we got them. We got them. Now we're putting the clamps on, but boy, I tell you, that's an impressive group of guys that you have behind you. I was watching that, and a couple of very strong women too. But I was watching that last night. I said, I'm proud of you guys. In 2 months, we've exposed tens of billions of dollars of defrauded taxpayer money, prosecuted numerous fraudsters, Todd, and stopped billions of suspicious payments, very suspicious. Oh, you haven't seen anything yet? Well, you see, I'm getting reports from Todd, from JD. I've never seen anything like it. The kind of just hundreds of billions of dollars was stolen, and no other administration would do what we're doing. They'd let it go. Everybody was getting rich, and I think we have a chance to save Social Security without doing anything to it by just the numbers of fraudulent people on Social Security, people that are 115 years old. 125 years old, getting payments. It's funny, I said, oh, do those payments get turned back? No, they accept them. Well, somebody's getting the payment. It's not a person that's 125 years old. But that's the least of it. The numbers that we're finding out, we have great people at Social Security. We're going to make our Social Security so strong, so good, that you've never seen anything like it. We're going to protect. I said right from the beginning, we're going to protect our people on Social Security. If the Democrats ever got in, you wouldn't have said Social Security would be bankrupt. People wouldn't be getting anything. Last week, they took down 2 of the largest Medicaid fraud cases in Minnesota history, as well as the largest autism fraud case ever charged by the federal government. You saw that with millions of dollars just being stolen. Everybody had autism. Everybody had autism, they said. It was incredible, actually. And I've just seen I see what they're doing. You haven't seen anything yet. So congratulations, JD. Be vicious like they are. They're violent people. They're violent, vicious scum. Before asking Vice President Vance to speak about these efforts, I want to express our tremendous gratitude to our outgoing Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who's a terrific person, actually. Come up with some findings that were pretty good. And Tulsi's worked tirelessly to restore trust and focus on the intelligence and with the intelligence community. They all respected her. They listened to her. She gave us leads that were pretty much, people thought they were dead and they weren't dead. They were right there, and she was able to expose a lot of things that we used at the FBI with Cash and with Todd and with JD and everybody else. It was amazing. She dramatically reformed the Office of Director of National Intelligence and cutting the staff by 40%, and she prevented countless terrorists and cartel members from entering the United States. She exposed mountains of evidence related to the Russia hoax, probably the greatest hoax in the history of our country. Although, when you look at the fraud coming out, there's a lot of them. Honestly, there's a lot of them. But the Russia hoax, a great hoax, a very dangerous hoax too, and revoked security clearances of officials involved, and she declassified numerous historic documents of special public interest, including related to the JFK and RFK assassinations, which everybody wanted to see. And we're now releasing a lot of things having to do with space. It's people are very interested in that. It actually became the #1 topic. We're releasing a lot of information having to do with extraterrestrial things, and people are totally fascinated by it. It's amazing. I wasn't sure if they would enjoy it. It's literally trending #1. Can you believe it? So a lot of people out there are like it, but we're releasing all of that information. And Tulsi, we're praying for you and for your husband. Her husband's not feeling great, but he's going to feel great soon. You're going to get him better, and he's a wonderful guy. So just say hello, and thank you for the great work you've done. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to ask JD to say a few words about the war on fraud, followed by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who's doing fantastically, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, another one. We have great people. And the Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Central Casting. He loves war. I don't like it. He's a good man, that one. And Scott Bessent, you talk about a guy doing a job. Been fantastic. Thank you, Scott. Really fantastic. And a lot of the success that we're having with other countries is what you've been able to do and find. And SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler and all of the people here have been great. We're going to just do those few, and maybe if you have some questions, we'll go to others. But everybody around here has got a lot to say, but we did that once and it lasted for like 4 or 5 hours. It was a little much. We want to be open. So now if I do this way, they'll say, he didn't let anybody talk. But let's start with JD, and you can talk about a really, really important thing, bringing our country back to honesty. A tremendous amount of money is involved. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, thank you for your leadership, sir, and for making it possible. I often find in the fraud task force that there sometimes are barriers that we need to break down, agencies that need to coordinate, and I'll come to the president and say, Mr. President, I need your permission to do, he'll say, for what? For the fraud task force, and he'll cut me off and say, yes, go do it. So the fact that we have dedicated presidential leadership is really what's made this possible, because it does require, we've got great people around the table, but sometimes these agencies don't know how to work together at the lower level, and that's one of the things we've had to turn on and force with the fraud task force. So I want to shout out just a few all-stars here. Linda at the Department of Education has been amazing at finding student loan fraud. You've got people who are either illegal aliens or aren't even actually real human beings who are getting hundreds of millions of dollars from the Department of Education for student loans. We have cut that off. We found a lot. We're going to find a lot more. Scott at HUD has been amazing, because a lot of the fraud that we see is housing fraud, people claiming benefits that they're not entitled to, or again, sir, sometimes completely made up people who exist purely to collect fraudulent money from the American taxpayer. Brooke at the Department of Agriculture, something I had no idea until I started this work, sir, that we send hundreds of billions of dollars to the states to administer the food stamp program. The federal government has no insight into whether those food stamps are going to people who are legally entitled or whether those people actually even exist. And so we're working on a number of mechanisms to actually force the states to verify that the people who receive these benefits are actually entitled to them. And I could go down the list. I've gotten a lot of support from a lot of people in this room. Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz have been particular all-stars on this, and Kim at H&HS. What they've done with the Medicaid fraud, we found tens of billions of dollars in Medicaid and Medicare fraud just from their hard work. We've cut that off, and yes, Mr. President, we're going to find a lot more. The final thing I want to say, Mr. President, and I know that Todd maybe has something to say about this as well, but I always try to remind the American people, and certainly remind the cabinet officials. By the way, Kelly at SBA has found tens of billions of dollars that were from fraudulent loans that were giving under the Biden administration, and we've now cut that off and recovered a lot of that money. So this has been a whole of government effort, Mr. President. The team really deserves a great deal of credit here. But the final point I want to make, sir, is I always try to remind the American people that fraud is fundamentally a crime with two victims. The most obvious victim are the American taxpayer. They pay their taxes, they expect the money to go where it should go, and that's not happening because of the fraudsters. But there are also victims, people who benefit from these programs that don't exist if we're not actually taking care of the fraud issue. And let me just give one example to build on something you said earlier, sir. One of the people that Todd just prosecuted was a person who was collecting a lot of money from the American taxpayer to take care of elderly citizens, people who worked their entire lives, paid their taxes, should have had dignity and nobility in old age, but it was deprived from them from fraudsters who say that they're taking care of them, who collect a check to take care of them, but then abuse and neglect these people. And particularly one man who died because he wasn't getting adequate care, and that guy was still collecting benefits to take care of a person who he had completely neglected. So not only do you have an American taxpayer who's paying into these programs, you have an elderly citizen deprived of his dignity because we're not going after the fraudsters. Well, now we are.
How much money did he get?
Sir, hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more than that, but we think that that exact type of fraud has been replayed all over our country. That particular case was outside of Minneapolis. We expect that there are tens of thousands of people who are collecting fraudulent money to take care of people, and they're not actually taking care of them. We're, of course, going to get to the root of as much of it as we can. But again, sir, it's been, I wouldn't say fun, because you find out how much people have been taken advantage of, but it's certainly very good and valuable work. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Attorney General, please.
I'll just continue to talk about what the Vice President was just talking about. The way that we are actually, it's one thing to uncover fraud, which we've done, and that's part of it, but it's also prosecuting the bad guys that are doing it and stopping it from continuing. And that's where you have everybody in this room has inspector generals. And for many years, these really hardworking law enforcement members would identify fraud, and nobody did anything about it. DOJ prosecuted it, but spent a very little resources on that. So what we've done just in the past 51 days, over 400 law enforcement actions in this country related to major fraud. That's search warrants, that's arrests, that's convictions, that's indictments that are filed, and that's just 51 days. And it's not just the great prosecutors. It's the FBI agents, it's DHS and HSI agents. It's everybody in this room that has inspector generals that are now they have been freed up, and it's because of you. It's because of the Vice President saying this is going to be a priority of what we are going to do. Not just the Department of Justice, even though we're the prosecutors that are putting bad guys in jail. It's also the law enforcement at every agency, FBI and DHS. And so we're already seeing results. We had a $1 billion fraud, a conviction at trial last week out of Florida. And this was an organization that was stealing from senior citizens in Florida, duping them. There were call centers set up in the Philippines, and they were duping them to buy medical equipment that they didn't need, that they would never get, and that the taxpayers paid for. And so that's a good win. We arrested 15 guys in Minnesota last week. The Vice President mentioned one of them. These are people that are not they're just stealing, and many of them are here illegally. And so you have people who are in this country illegally who are then taking advantage, and the Vice President says something a lot that resonates with me: the generosity of the American people, the generosity of everybody in this room, the leadership, to take care of the people in this country that are the most, that deserve it the most. Children who are supposed to get food at school, and you have men just stealing, taking that money, and so that's what we're focused on. We are standing up, as you know, Mr. President, you allowed us to stand up a new division at the Department of Justice. It's our entire existence of that division is to combat what we're talking about. And then every U.S. Attorney's Office is now focused on it as well. So this is something that will result in a better place for every citizen in this country and save money, a lot of money, and also it's the right thing to do for our tax dollars, Mr. President.
And billions of dollars was given out just very quickly before Biden left office. Billions and billions were given out. And I mean, I know of many cases, but one, I don't know what's happened with it, but I think you're looking at it. I know Lee was involved in it environmentally. And Stacey Abrams was given $2 billion for an account that had $103 in it, an environmental fraud, I guess. And she had $103 in this newly opened account. And before leaving business, they put $2 billion into the account. And they had no reason for existence. They were unable to say what they did with it. $2 billion. Lee, do you want to just mention something about that?
Well, thanks to your leadership, Mr. President, that was canceled. And they no longer have access to that $2 billion.
They won like hell. They wanted that money. Go ahead.
In fact, it was over $29 billion that it's now been canceled at EPA. You told us to make it a priority. Now this happened as soon as you came in. After the election, before your inauguration, they were caught on video saying that they were rushing to get billions of dollars out the door before you're swearing in because they were afraid that once you were sworn in, you were going to stop it. Well, that part, they were right.
We did. Yeah, we did. Great job.
And, we're happy to do it, Mr. President. And, the Department of Justice under Todd Blanche's leadership, they just secured another big win in an appeals court on some recently canceled grants for different agencies. So great attorneys making sure that this accountability is delivered over the finish line. It's been a great team effort.
And we're building more, most importantly, we're building more factories and plants in the United States now than at any time ever before. $18 trillion coming in. That's not including the 12th month, that's 11. And I say it often that the Biden administration had much less than 1 trillion, and we have 18 trillion. And when those final numbers come up, they'll be even higher than that. That's a record in the history of the world. No country has ever done that. And that money's going into plants, and you are giving them very fast approvals, thorough and environmentally correct, but fast approvals. And you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much. Another man doing a fantastic job, I think we all agree, is Marco. You're all over the place, right? I watched you last night in 3 different locations. So tell us about Iran.
Well, first of all, the bottom line is Iran's never going to have a nuclear weapon. And if recent events have done anything, is just remind us once again that they are the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. And they can never have a nuclear weapon. Now, the president's preference, Mr. President, your preference is told us repeatedly, is always to negotiate these things and to figure out if you can have agreements. Diplomacy is always the first option. And we continue to work on that through your envoys, Mr. Witkoff and Kushner and others, the vice president, who've been very involved. And if there's an agreement to be made, we want that to be made. I think there's been some progress and some interest, and we'll see over the next few hours and days whether progress could be made. I just want to remind everybody, Mr. President, you know this well, you have other options available to you if that doesn't work. But the bottom line is that we prefer the negotiated diplomatic route, and we're going to give it every chance to succeed. I know you're giving it every chance to succeed, Mr. President, but here's the bottom line, because I keep getting asked, what is this all about? It's very simple. Iran and these people in charge of Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and they will never have a nuclear weapon, and they most certainly will not have one as long as you're President of the United States. On that point, it's very clear. Just 2 quick things I want to touch upon. One, you touched upon the border and security. Part of securing our border is dealing with the people that are in this country unlawfully, many of whom do not want to go back to the country that they originally came from for a variety of reasons. Either we can't send them there or some judge ties us up. And one of the key things we have achieved is now 20 countries have signed third country national agreements, meaning these are safe countries where individuals who refuse to go back to their country of origin can be sent to that country instead. We've gotten 20 countries now around the world who have signed agreements that allow us to deport people to those places. What often happens when you go to the person who's here unlawfully and say, we're going to send you to this third country, is all of a sudden they decide they'd rather go back to their home country instead. So it gives the ability to enforce all laws, and we work very closely with the Department of Homeland Security on that front. Something else that I know is concerning people, because it's on the news, is Ebola. Our number one obligation, we're involved in foreign policy, but even our foreign policy, the number one priority of our foreign policy is to protect the American people. We cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States. And so the State Department and other agencies represented here, the Centers for Disease Control, HHS, others, are working very, very hard to contain this crisis to the countries where it's currently located, particularly the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so we've surged assistance to make sure that is being contained there. And obviously, multiple agencies involved here are also very involved in tracking people, just to make sure that nobody comes into this country that has Ebola and creates a problem for us. And we feel like we've got good efforts in place to do that, and Americans should feel assured that the President and his administration is doing everything we can to protect them on that front. My last point, you said I was all over the place. One of the places I stopped in last night was to initial the Trump Route for Prosperity in Armenia. This is a key linchpin of the peace deal that you were able to achieve between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Right. And in addition to that, we also signed a critical minerals MOU with them and a strategic engagement one as well. So just a reminder of another war you helped to settle, Mr. President. But from that now we are seeing the emergence of a great new relationship with Armenia that really had grown stagnant for a very long period of time. So we're doing well on that front as well. Thank you.
And could I just ask you, Cuba and Venezuela, what's going on there?
Well, interesting. On Venezuela, that process continues, that three-phase process, of obviously stabilization, recovery, and transition. I would just say, just since January 3rd of this year, okay, and I think this number's right, and Chris or Doug can correct me on this, but I think over 10 million barrels of Venezuelan oil have been delivered to the United States since the 3rd of January. That industry is being professionalized for the first time ever. It's going to the benefit of the Venezuelan people. They are selling oil in the market at market rates. The money's going to an account in the United States, controlled and monitored by Treasury, audited by KPMG, and it's for the first time ever the money's not being stolen. It's going to the benefit of the Venezuelan people. Cuba's in a lot of trouble, because unfortunately for them, it's run by a bunch of incompetent communists. And being communist is bad, being an incompetent communist is like the worst. And but the country's been taken over by this company called Gaesa that basically controls 70% of the economy. None of the money in that company goes to help the Cuban people, none of it. So we'll be talking to them, we'll be working on it. We want something good for the Cuban people, and hopefully there'll be a good outcome there for them. There needs to be. It's 90 miles from our shores. And having a failed state 90 miles from our shores is a threat to the national security of the United States.
So we're producing right now more oil by double than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. There's never been anything like that. We don't need oil, we don't need the Straits, we don't need anything, but we have more oil now being produced by 2 times than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. It's a great stat. Do you want to say something about that?
Well, I would, President Trump, under your leadership, we've opened up lease sales on public land. This is land that was put away for the benefit and the use of the American people, like the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in Alaska. The Biden administration had illegally stopped holding lease sales during their administration. President Trump famously said, drill, baby, drill, but before you can drill, you've got to open public lands. Between the lease sales that have happened in the Permian, in the Bakken, and on the North Slope, just since January of this year, it's over $4 billion of revenues come into the Treasury. That's 13 times more than the Biden administration brought in on lease sales in the entire 4 years they're in office. Sir, your policies brought that in 5 months. So with that, a lot of excitement, a lot of activity. We also inherited just in one district in Carlsbad, New Mexico, 5,600 unprocessed applications to drill for oil and gas on public land. And when we're drilling on public land, those companies pay a royalty, and that money comes to all of our citizens, and it goes to local school districts, and it goes to states. It is the core of the economy in parts of our country. The team down there working for the Department of Interior, Bureau of Land Management, has dropped that by 91%. It's one of the reasons why they had a record lease sale. It's because now people go, I can bid on federal land and I'm going to get a permit to drill, and it's not going to take me 5 years to get it. I'm going to get it in a month or less. And so it's exciting to see your vision. And of course, with this energy dominance, us, as you just noted, largest oil producer in the world, largest natural gas producer in the world, largest natural gas exporter. This is an opportunity for us to bring prosperity and affordability here at home, but also bring peace abroad. So President Trump, your energy dominance strategy with Chris Wright, Lee Zeldin, all the people that are working on this, people around the room, it's been really incredible. And of course, you mentioned Venezuela, but all that flowing to our Gulf Coast refineries is also helping to keep the price of gas down at home. So again, it's an amazing transformation. Bottom line is the center of geopolitics around energy has moved from other parts of the world to the Western Hemisphere in the last 5 months. You turned Venezuela from a sanctioned adversary into a strategic ally in 45 minutes. Never happened in history before. And what's going on in Alaska? When I was there last week in Alaska, the North Slope, 80,000 barrels a day coming online at Pico. That wouldn't have happened with you. It's up by Willow on the North Slope. That's going into the Alaska pipeline. 20% increase just off that one field. So amazing work. Energy is a high-tech industry, and those guys are crushing it, and they're loving the fact that they can provide affordable, reliable, secure energy for America.
And we're working very hard in California. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but California has tremendous oil reserves. It used to be number 3 in the nation, and the radical left has just wiped it out, and we're working very hard to get that open again and get it so the people, their gasoline prices, their lack of energy is just staggering. It's staggering. And we're actually making very good progress. Even people that were against that at one point, now they're saying, wow, that'd be great. But people don't realize it was one of the, right, Chris? It was one of the top drilling states, one of the, I would say in terms of reserves, as among the top in the country. Nobody thinks of that with California. Everything was just closed down, really violently closed down. And we're opening up some of it, and we're being met with actually great spirit, because they're paying so much for gasoline that they don't have to be doing that. And they have a very incompetent group of leaders, like grossly incompetent. So I think that's going to be something. On a slightly smaller subject, while Doug was speaking, Department of Interior, he and his people have done a fantastic job on D.C. D.C. is looking beautiful. The fountains are almost all open. We had 28 of them. And we have one in particular, a very long lake, we call it, a reflecting lake, between the Lincoln Monument. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. You take a look at, between Lincoln and Washington, you have the longest, like 2,400 feet long. That's longer than the tallest building in the world if you set it on its side. And it's almost 200 feet wide. And actually it was built in 1922, and from 1922 on, it really never worked. It always leaked, and it was a problem, and a lot of things. And hundreds of millions was spent. The Biden administration and the Obama administration spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to get it to work, and they failed. And we'll be spending, you'll give me a number, but I think it's a very low number. It's like in the number that we originally talked about, where we cleaned it, we fumigated it. We had 10 major truck dumpsters of garbage taken out. Can you believe it? A friend of mine came in, very substantial person from Germany, wanted to see the Washington Monument. I wanted to see the Lincoln Memorial. And he said, I look, but that horrible reflecting pond is disgusting. It's filthy, dirty, and disgusting. I said, really? I drove down. I said, Secret Service, let's take a drive. And we went down. I said, that's terrible. And for the most part, it didn't work. I mean, they wouldn't even have water in there. But when they did, it was just dirty, filthy water that leaked out. And we got to work on it. And it was supposed to cost almost $400 million, because it's like putting the skin on a skyscraper, but bigger, much bigger. many skyscrapers, you could almost say, other than for the world's tallest. Think of it, the world's tallest skyscraper is shorter than 2,400 feet. So we went to work, and over the years I built hundreds of pools. I build them every time I built the building. I always like to build Olympic-sized swimming pools, and I was very aware of swimming pool, what goes into making a swimming pool. It's not as simple as people think. You never want it to leak. You want to have beautiful surface. I said, you know, I have an idea, Doug. We sat down. I said, let's take that long thing where we're going to fix it with concrete, which leaks, concrete, and all sorts of other materials that all leak and don't look good. They're gray. And, you know, swimming pool, I have a swimming pool right up the road. I built it 22 years ago. It's perfect. I said, does it ever leak? No. It's perfect. Good contractors. I actually called in a couple of the contractors, got some ideas from them, and I gave it to Doug, and Doug's done an unbelievable job. And so they were going to spend maybe $400 million. I don't know. You never know with cost overruns and everything, but it was going to take years to build, 3 years, 4 years. And we'll have it done before July 4th, substantially before July 4th. If we didn't have such bad weather the last 4 or 5 days, we could have been almost done. You can't do the substance in the rain. And what they did is they cleaned it. They took out, as I said, more than 10 dumpsters of garbage, shovels. It was disgusting. Oh, every corner had massive amounts of, I guess that's the way the tide goes, but they had massive amounts of garbage. We then steam cleaned it. We then sandblasted it, and then we pebble blasted it. That's a bigger version of sand. We made the surface as good as it can be, and we're now covering it with the most beautiful blue, very thick. You think of it as a very sophisticated form of rubber. No leaks, no problems, and it's beautiful. It's called American Flag Blue. That was the color we chose. And we are probably 70% finished with it. It's going to be finished. The hard part's done. And then we decided to do much more than originally I thought I was just going to do the surface, but we said the problem is the outer ring looks pretty bad too, where you walk on. So we sandblasted that. This is all additional work. We didn't want to do, when you do something like this, when you do the one, you think the other looked okay, but then when the other, you see the new surface, the old stuff that looked okay looks really bad. So we cleaned that, sandblasted it. The walkways, all of it. It's a tremendous amount of area. It's thousands of feet long, very wide. This is where the people stand, not the water part, the dry part. And we had a combination of granite and stone, and we're pointing it, fixing it. The joints were terrible, everything. The whole place was a mess. And when it opens in a couple of weeks, long before July 4th, we want to have it for July 4th weekend, but it'll be long before that, you will see something that's really going to be beautiful. And now we're looking at the World War II fountain, because that's also in pretty bad shape. On the bottom, we're going to duplicate it, I think, with the maybe with a slightly different color. Actually, we'll go with a lighter color. But Doug and I have a lot of fun doing it. Your staff is fantastic. They've really worked well. But the concept, so think of it, instead of spending $200, $300, $400 million, and it will never work, we're going to spend like $10 million maybe, $12 million. Instead of spending 4 years, we're going to spend, like if you add it all up, like a couple of months. And instead of going through 4th of Julys as a horrible construction site, we're going to have it open before the 4th of July. And the difference is it's better. Somebody said, oh, well, but it's not the same. Some of the fake news would say, well, but it's not. No, it's like the pen story. The pen is better at $2 than it was at $2,000. This is the same thing. This is far better. Won't leak. It'll last for 50 years, maybe 100 years. They didn't even know. I said, how long will this last? Oh, I think you'll get 50 years out of it. We did the swimming pool treatment, but they said, sir, for a little more money, we can get industrial strength. I said, that sounds good to me. Same color, same everything, same stuff, but it's actually much stronger. It's used for industrial. I said, I love that. So we're going to have that open. It's going to be really, really beautiful. And it's a very important thing. We can't have people looking at the Washington Monument, going the memorial. If you take a look, the Lincoln Memorial It was built, I guess, a little after the Lincoln War. It's embarrassing. It was so horrible. I never saw anything like it. It was filthy dirty. It was Biden. And they spent, between the two of them, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to fix this thing. Now, when Obama did it, he spent way over $100 million. And they had a great idea. Let's use the water from the Potomac. Because environmentally, they liked it. Somebody said that was good. But the water from the Potomac was not suitable for this, to put it mildly. It was disgusting what happened. And so they spent hundreds of millions, over $100 million, and they immediately closed it. It was closed for many months and nobody did anything. It was closed. It's basically been closed. But go back to 1922. It was always sort of, people think of it as beautiful, but it was always a mess. It's going to be unbelievable. It will be unbelievable. It's actually exciting. I want to ride over there today if I can. I always have a problem. Secret Service isn't in love with my walking along, checking the sidewalk, the new sidewalk, to see whether or not they pointed it correctly. But they do. We have great contractors doing the job, but we'll spend a very tiny amount of money, and it'll be better than it ever was when it was built in 1922. It's very exciting, actually. To me, I love construction. It's very exciting. And we do many things. We did 28 or 29 fountains. I made a contribution to redoing Lafayette Park. That's the entrance to the White House, and it was an embarrassment. The floors were broken. They had bricks. Some of the bricks were missing. You know where they're missing? They took them out to throw at people. We're going with them. It's going to be a world-class park. It'll be open pretty soon. They're doing a lot of work over there. That was a contribution that I made with some other people. And it's going to be really beautiful. That was really the front door to the White House, but you couldn't even use it. It was so terrible. People would come to the White House, and it was so terrible. So with that, I'm going to ask Pete to talk about some of our great success.
Yes, sir.
Including Venezuela, you might talk.
Absolutely, sir. I think actually your efforts on the reflecting pool are actually a great segue. If you look at Washington and Lincoln, these are two men that faced monumental tasks and stood up in historic fashion and delivered for the American people. And when you step back and look at 47 years of what Iran waged war against us and our people, there's only one man over the course of both presidency who has stood up and said they will never get a nuclear weapon, as Marco said. So whether it was Qasem Soleimani, whether it was scrapping the Obama deal that was going to give them a weapon, whether it was the 12-day war or Operation Midnight Hammer, you created the conditions to ensure the American people and the world are safeguarded from this generational threat. And so when you authorized Operation Epic Fury, just like you talked about with the reflecting pool, we didn't do the same old thing the way we'd done it in the past after Iraq and Afghanistan, the way we waged wars. Instead, you said, we're going to do this smart, we're going to do it overwhelming, we're going to use maximum lethality, and we're going to bring them to their knees. And so whether it's their Navy that's at the bottom of the Persian Gulf, their Air Force, their air defenses, or their defense industrial base, they may have missiles, but they can't build more right now, and they can't build more drones right now, and they can't build more ships. And so they came and cried uncle to talk, which Steve and Jared and the vice president and others are doing so ably. And during that time, we put in a world-class blockade. And they haven't been able to bring anything in or anything out from Iranian ports. And we know from the intel that their economy is hurting big time because that is their lifeblood. And again, bringing them to the table. So whether it is through the efforts of your negotiators that they ensure that they never have a nuclear weapon, or we have to go back to the War Department to finish the job that way. We're prepared to do that. And I think even our reach on the dark fleet of Iranian tankers, no Iranian tanker around the globe is safe. And we've seen seizures all around the globe, again, choking off their economic lifeblood. But all of this is possible, Mr. President, thanks to the investments that you've made in this department, firing on all cylinders. For the second year in a row, we're at historic recruitment rates. Last year, we said that here. This year, we beat it even faster. The American people are excited about what you're bringing to our department. Our defense industrial base, $50 billion in private investments. Because of the meetings you've held, defense manufacturers are investing in new plants and new manufacturing, new production lines, so that we're getting weapons faster than ever. And then the $1.5 trillion that you've committed to the department going forward, that's 1 million American jobs. 1 million American manufacturing jobs. That's Golden Dome for America, that's F-47, that's B-21, that's $50 billion in drones. We're going to lead the world in drones. shaving years off of production of all of those, everything under budget and ahead of schedule, which is what the warfighter deserves. And we saw it, you mentioned Venezuela, Mr. President, you saw it on display there. Think of the fact that our Southcom commander just landed via helicopter at our embassy peacefully at the welcome of the Venezuelans, because we're now partnering with them, hopefully, even on the counter-cartel mission as we secure our hemisphere. So we've secured that southwest border. We're going to war with the cartels through the America's Counter-Cartel Coalition. Venezuela is a big part of securing our energy future and defending the homeland. And then I just want to note one more thing to give you a sense of how committed this president is. Maybe a year ago, he heard the call of Nigerian Christians who were being targeted and killed by ISIS in Nigeria. And he said, Pete, I want the War Department to focus on ensuring that we do everything we can to protect those Christians. Partnerships like that can take time behind the scenes, but he never wavered on it. And we got the assets there, and over the last month, and there hasn't been much coverage of this, we killed ISIS #2 in Nigeria, who's most responsible for killing Christians and trying to target the U.S. homeland, and have since, because of the intel we gathered, killed hundreds of ISIS members who were targeting and killing Christians in Nigeria, creating a whole new opportunity there. So there's a lot of things we do that the media pays attention to, and a lot of things the president empowers the department to do on behalf of the American people that he deserves great credit for.
Thank you. Great job. You're doing a great job. I just want to say on recruitment, we're very proud of the fact that for the previous 4 years, previous administration, they couldn't recruit people. And that included, by the way, police and firemen and others. They were not proud of our country. And they couldn't recruit. Anybody with a uniform and was having a hard time recruiting. And they set record low numbers. They were way, way behind. And literally from November 5th it started. It started even before we got going. Mm-hmm. But from the time we won the election to now, we've had numbers of recruitment, the likes of which we've never had. Record recruitment in every single branch, and that includes police and firemen. Record recruitment, so we're very proud of that. Thank you. Great job. Thank you, sir. Kelly, please.
Mr. President, you have made us a nation of builders again. You're leading us to the greatest economy that the world has ever known, and I see that every week as I travel this country, main streets across dozens of states, from Alaska to Maine. I've been in many of those states 2 or 3 times. I hear it everywhere I go. Please thank the president for putting us back on track. They thank you, they love you, they want more of what we're doing, tax cuts, deregulation, fair trade, energy dominance. Small businesses are spring-loaded, and we see that in the jobs numbers. In the last 2 months alone, we've created over 300,000 private sector jobs in this country. Most jobs are created by small businesses, 2 out of 3. And small businesses, as you know, make up 99% of all businesses in this country and account for half of our GDP. So when that part of the economy is finally working again, they've gotten out from $5 trillion of regulation that the Biden administration put on hardworking small businesses. They penalized growth, investment, hard work, and success. But thanks to the working family tax cuts that every single Democrat voted against, hardworking families, the welders, the waitresses that I meet on factory floors across this country, from Pennsylvania to New Mexico, where I'll be tomorrow. Brooke and I are going to Arizona tonight. So we see this everywhere we go. It's one of the most underreported stories in the media. Main Street is back, and that's because America first. I'll tell you the other thing about fraud. Small businesses are particularly hurt by the fraud because they're some of our biggest taxpayers in the country. And they show up every day. They work hard to provide for their employees, to build their businesses. They're doing it the honest way. And they see fraudsters taking from the American people. It's taxpayer money. And so you think about, at the SBA, we found $200 billion in fraudulent PPP loans that the Biden administration tried to hide and forgive and sweep under the rug. We've turned the first $22 billion of that over to Treasury for collections and to DOJ for prosecution. Our Inspector General is already announcing that people are going to jail. There are jail sentences now being served. We've announced that 140,000 people have been barred from ever getting SBA loans again, defrauding the government for about $9 billion. So we are going to continue our work under the great leadership of Vice President Vance and appreciate the partnership because it's really accelerated our ability to get the job done. But then just back to small businesses. We have record business formation in this country. That's another story that the media won't tell you. Over 500,000 businesses on average a month this year. So it's not just record people working, strong job creation, business formation at all-time records in this country, but we have manufacturing expansion 4 consecutive months. That means that's a leading indicator, meaning that we have expansion coming. Another story the media won't tell you, 98% of all manufacturers are small businesses. 75% of our defense industrial base is small business. They're our main exporters. And so America first, free trade, fair trade, deregulation, tax cuts, and energy dominance is helping workers on Main Street, and that's why they tell you to tell me to tell you, Mr. President, thank you, and they love you.
Well, thank you very much. Great job. Thank you, Kelly. And I just say, we went to China last week. We had an amazing meeting with President Xi. The relationship's very good. We're doing a lot of business with China now, but it's not where they were ripping us off. For years and years, they ripped us off like nobody ever got ripped off. Now it's a very profitable business that we do with China. And they respect our country again. We have the strongest military in the world by far, and they respect our country again. Scott, please.
Sir, on the economy, 2 words, resilience and prosperity. The continued resilience of the economy speaks for itself, even during the Iran conflict, and it speaks to the strength of your leadership. Pro-growth policies are creating conditions for American families and businesses to prosper. We're entering the second half of our 250th anniversary year with renewed optimism and momentum. It has never been a better time to be an American, and as you said earlier, we have a record number of Americans working. The economy that you are building is not only strong, but secure and resilient and better positioned to compete globally. Real GDP has risen 2.7% over the past 4 quarters, something that many economists said couldn't be done. In the first quarter of 2026, despite the Iran conflict, GDP grew at a 2% annual rate. The Atlanta Fed GDP now is predicting 4.3% for this quarter. In terms of prices, I believe the prices are transitory. Oil will be lower than pre-conflict levels when this ends. Natural gas is already down, as you mentioned. Drug and pharmaceutical prices, they are plummeting, and rent is down. We are more resilient to energy price fluctuations due to your energy dominance agenda, to regulatory efforts, and we have never sold so much energy to the rest of the world. Business investment rose at a 10.4% annual rate in the first quarter. Capital expenditures and business equipment rose more than 17%, and that is as a result of the tax bill and tariffs. Jobs related to commercial construction, factory construction, are up 90,000 since your inauguration. In the past 2 months, the private sector, as Kelly said, has added 313,000 new jobs, and those are private sector jobs, sir, including 13,000 manufacturing jobs. We have construction jobs, we're building the factories, and those will turn into manufacturing jobs. The stock market has hit new highs. The stock market lives in the future. It is seeing on the other side of this conflict, it is a strong symbol of optimism for the future. Corporate earnings are high, and wages are doing well. For the tax season, we had the best tax filing season in history, which is a victory for Main Street. The average refund was nearly $3,300, 11% increase from last tax filing season, and importantly, 62 million returns had one of your 4 signature policies: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. They reduced taxes. 85% of our seniors paid no taxes on Social Security, and the deductibility of auto loans for American-made cars. For what I believe is the most important government benefit for young people since the GI Bill, the Trump accounts. The app will be available on all major platforms tomorrow morning, and it will place the American dreams into the palms of the hands of parents and children. Nearly 6 million kids have been signed up for Trump accounts, and they will launch on July 4th, and it will be a great symbol of the 250th anniversary. Main Street prosperity, workers have seen positive wage gains. The unemployment rate remains low at 4.3%, and private sector job growth is strong. So just to reiterate, resilience and prosperity have been the marks of your second term.
It's been great. It's been amazing, actually. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. President. Iris Tao with NTV Sister Media with the Epoch Times. We've done a lot to clean up DC and fight crimes here, and as a lot of Americans and people from all around the world are coming to the nation's capital ahead of the major 250th birthday events here, how important is it for you to really keep delivering on these results, but also what does it mean for America's identity on the national and international stage?
So I'm very proud of DC because when we came here, a little more than a year ago, it was a very dangerous place, and now it's a very safe place. It's been incredible what's happened as you see the crime numbers. We had restaurants closing up, and nobody wanted to go to a restaurant. They were afraid to walk to work. It was a very, very dangerous place, very unsafe, and now it's a very safe place. We brought in the National Guard. We worked with Cash and the FBI, and Janine is doing fantastically, and Todd, and everybody. And it's now a very safe city, and people are pouring in, and you see the grass is all beautiful. We put a lot of new grass in because, you know, like people, grass has a life too. And this grass, it was about a long time. But the waterfalls we talked about and the fountains, most of them are in the final stages or fixed. People are writing me letters. People are talking about it. We have some of the most beautiful fountains in the world, and there wasn't one, not one, that worked. We had 29. Out of the 29, not one was worked, in addition to the reflecting pool, which is even, that was the big one of them all, but that was a disaster. So with all of that, and this place is looking beautiful. I rode through it yesterday, where the fences are down. The homeless aren't staying here any longer. We're helping them out, but we're not, we just can't have them in the nation's capital. And when foreign dignitaries come in, they're saying, the first thing they say to me, this place has really changed. They saw that it was going down. Our whole country was going down, just like DC was going down. And as you know, the restaurants were closing up. There weren't very many restaurants, and now they're opening up. You can't get a space. And everyone's going out to dinner, and they're safe. And we have the national security, and we have the National Guard, and we're going to keep them. I want to, by the way, just in case I mentioned, keep them. Okay. And don't lower the number either. Absolutely. Somebody said, "Oh, are there less?" I said, "I hope not, but don't lower the number if you don't mind." Okay.
We're going to surge this summer too.
Yeah. They look great. You know what? They give people. We took out 5,000 criminals, hardcore criminals. By the way, 90% of the crime is calculated. 2% of the people do 90% of the crime. That's a great number. Because when you get rid of 2%, 2% you can get rid of. 90% you can't get rid of, 2%. So 2% create 90% of the crime, 91% actually, to be exact. And we moved 5,000 people, Todd, out of here. These are career criminals. Many of them came over from the last administration through the open border, the ridiculous open border, no vetting, nobody knew who they were. They came out of prisons, they're drug dealers, there were people from mental institutions. And Washington, D.C. is now a safe and beautiful place. And it's only going to get more beautiful. Yeah, please.
President John, thank you so much for having us in here today. What are your thoughts? Why do you think that Joe Biden is trying to sue this Department of Justice, former President Joe Biden, to have his tapes that he did interviews on blocked from the American people hearing them? Do you think that he's trying to hide something? And maybe Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche could comment on if they will countersue and release those tapes to the American public.
Are you talking about it with respect to his book?
With respect to
I'd like to see it. I don't know. Maybe there's some constitutional reason. I don't know. I would like to see what he has to say, because we can never allow what happened to this country to happen. The man was grossly incompetent, and the Democrats, I call them the Democrats because the policy is so bad, but they came very close to destroying our country. We can never let it happen again, and I hope that you're able to produce that. I think it would be very interesting reading for people.
Mr. President, Iran wants control of the Strait of Hormuz. Would you accept a short-term deal that allows Iran and Oman to control the strait? And would they have to open it immediately, or would you be open to that happening over a period of time?
No, the strait's going to be open to everybody.
And who would control it?
It's international waters. Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine.
Mr. President, thank you. How much economic pressure do you feel to get the Strait of Hormuz open?
Well, you have to say, the United States has so much oil that we are an exporter of oil. So we have plenty of oil. We're very lucky. We're blessed with the greatest piece of land in the world from that standpoint, and we have more than anybody else. And now when you add Venezuela to it, we have, I think, 64% of the world's oil. And we're getting along very well with Venezuela, by the way. It's being run really beautifully. The big companies are moving in. It's going to be amazing, because it's also, like us, they're very blessed in that sense. But we have natural energy that no other country has. We have more than anybody else. So it's really a world problem, because most of the world doesn't have that. And we're making it available. During the closing, I don't know if you've seen some of the satellite pictures, boats, hundreds of boats lined up. It looks like, I used to say, the Long Island Expressway with the cars. They're lined up, and they're coming to Texas, Louisiana, they're coming to Alaska to fill up their boat. They're big boat. Some of them are really big, 2 billion gallons. Even bigger than that now they make them. They make them up to 4, Chris, I hear. Now they make them up to 4. The 4 are now the big ones. Used to be the 1s. Now it's 4 million barrels of, think of that, 4 million barrels of oil in one boat. But they're lined up, and they're right now heading to Texas, and they've already filled up, and they've gone back. In addition to that, you have a lot of boats, you have about 1,500 boats in the strait wanting to get out, and at the right time we'll release them.
But the American people, sir, are seeing higher gas prices.
Yeah, they
It's
are.
come down a little bit, but it's still $4.
No, it's come down. Oh, it'll come down a lot. It'll come down to where it was before. We had it when I was in Iowa. We had we're driving by, and we saw gas stations, $1.90 a gallon, $1.85, $1.87 were the 3 that we saw. We had it down in some places below. Now we can't help but California, where they charge so much tax that you lower it and they charge tax. They've got to straighten the act out in California. But we had oil, we had gasoline down to a very low number. I think we'll be hitting that number shortly after that whole excursion ends.
Does that give you more urgency?
But regardless of anything, as Marco said better than anybody can say it, you can't let them have a nuclear weapon. They would use it instantly. They wouldn't think about it. They would use it instantly. I've gotten to know them. They would use it instantly.
Does that give you more urgency, Mr. President? You've said that you're in no rush to make a deal, but with gas prices that are so high across the country, people are paying more for travel. Does that give you more urgency to make a deal? Why doesn't it?
Well, I'll tell you, the primary urgency I have, I said this, it wasn't covered properly, but the primary urgency is that we can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. But at the same time, we have a tremendous amount of oil, gas, coal. We have tremendous amounts of energy. We're blessed with something very special. Those prices are going to come down. They're going to come down fast. I think that you'll see, actually, Todd, I think you're going to see lower prices that we had even before we did this. Now, I knew there'd be an increase. I said, we have a choice. We don't have to do anything. And in 2 years or 1 year or 2 months, because Iran would have had, if we didn't hit them with the B-2 bombers, Iran would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks from that date, because they were ready to go. And if they had a nuclear weapon, it would have been used already. It also would have been used had I not terminated the Obama deal, the Iran nuclear deal, as we call it. That was in my first term. Had I not terminated that, they would have had a nuclear weapon a long time ago. I would say it was a guarantee that it would have been used. And it would have blown up Israel. It would have blown up the entire Middle East. And that's never going to happen. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, on the shooting in Iran, would you be comfortable with Russia or China taking their stockpile of highly enriched uranium, and have they offered?
No, I wouldn't be comfortable. That would not make me comfortable.
Is the U.S. considering easing sanctions on Iran to allow Iran to sell its crude to market?
No, we're not talking about any easing of sanctions or giving money. No sanctions, no money, no nothing. We have control of money that they claim is theirs. We'll keep control of that money. And when they behave properly and when they do what's right, we'll let them have their money. But right now, we're not doing that, and it's not. One thing is not contingent on the other.
Would you say that integrity
Mr. President, on the shooting last weekend, it came barely a month after the third assassination attempt against you during the White House Correspondents' Dinner. What was your reaction when you first heard about the latest shooting, and what gives you the courage to really keep doing your job effectively without thinking about these threats every day?
Well, I can't think about it, because if I thought about it a lot, I wouldn't be a very good president. I wouldn't be here, probably. I'd be up in some room with a locked door and said, just leave me alone. So I can't really think about it. It's just something that, it's a sad part of life. It's a dangerous business. What I'm doing is a dangerous business. And they say, and look, we have been maybe the most consequential, but we certainly have been one of the most consequential. This group has been a very consequential administration. And they say if you're not consequential, you don't have so much problem. If you are consequential, you do. So you have to look at that. But it's a shame. It's a very sad fact of life. Look, anybody in office, not only in this country, in other countries too, but when you are a consequential president, your life is in grave danger. I knew that. Yeah.
Mr. President, how would you characterize the current state of the talks with Iran? I guess if it were a football field, what yard line would you be on?
Well, I think we're doing very well. They are starting to give us the things that they have to give us, and if they do, that's great. And if they won't, then the man on my left is going to finish them off.
Is there a time frame in your mind?
What?
Is there a time frame in your mind for?
I mean, it happens quickly. The problem is every time I mention a time frame, for instance, I see, we've been doing this for a few months. Vietnam lasted 19 years. Korea lasted 8 years. Afghanistan lasted many years. They were all many, many years, and we're into it for a few months. And I read about you people like you. What's taking so long? But we're in it. We lost between two big wars, Venezuela and Iran. We lost 13 souls, 13 great people. Met the parents, great people. And it's a terrible thing, but 13. If you look at the war casualties and the deaths in wars for Vietnam and all that, they lost hundreds of thousands of people in numerous of these wars. We're very cognizant of that. We want to lose very few. We want very few to be injured. We're very careful. But war is war. War's dangerous, but we've lost 13. I saw the Democrats took an ad putting in the 13 people that were lost. And when you look at hundreds of thousands of people that were lost in the Middle East, Iraq, all the different wars we were in, we have done an amazing job. With that being said, I hate to lose 13. I hate to lose one, but we've been very capable. I mean, when you think of it, we took over Venezuela in one day. We have done a similar job, but we said, well, give them a little chance at the request of somebody that we greatly respect from Pakistan, the Field Marshal and the Prime Minister. They've been great. They asked us, would we pause the war for a little while because they'd like to do so. We'll do that. But we had them beat. They're, no better now. We could close it out very quickly. If we can do it in a different way, that'd be good. If we get everything we want, but we could close that out very, very quickly, and we may have to. I don't think so, but we may have to.
Mr. President, ask about the World Cup, if I could.
Yeah.
The U.S. spent a lot of money getting the World Cup here and increasing infrastructure. Does the economic benefit outweigh the cost?
No, the World Cup is great. It's the most successful they've ever had, ticket-wise. They've never had anything that sold so quickly. It's amazing because it's the United States. You don't think of I call it soccer. It's just easier to do because we have football and they have two footballs, right? They call it football. But most people never thought they'd see anything like that. The World Cup, it's turned out to be the most successful World Cup from the standpoint of what's happening than they've ever had. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much. Rowan Ortiz with Turning Point USA. I have one question for you and one question for Vice President J.D. Vance on fraud. What's your message to the New Jersey leaders pushing back against ICE operations at Delaney Hall?
About ICE?
Yes.
Or about NICE, as I call it, NICE. The NICE facility. I'd love to change the name, call it NICE. They do a great job, and it's all paid for protesters. You can see by the signs. The signs are all made by the same beautiful factory. It's a printing plant. In fact, I'm thinking about using it. They do such a nice job. These aren't protesters. These people are fake. They're all paid for. And I will tell you, Tom Holman and that whole group, and now Mark Wayne is so incredible. Mark Wayne, do you want to just respond to that? We run the finest facilities anywhere in the world of their type. But we have some horrible killers. We have guys that have murdered numerous people in there. And these are the people they're trying to protect. There's nobody that runs a facility like we do. Mark Wayne?
Yeah, it shows that this radical left Democrats' priorities when they decide to go out and protest a detention center where we're housing rapists, child predators, murderers, drug dealers, and they choose Memorial Day of all the time to go protest something that they say that they're that it's because they're on a hunger strike when there was only a handful of individuals that was refusing to eat because they want their ethnic group or their ethnic right food. Well, they can go back to their country and get whatever food they want. The fact is, we're giving them the calories they want. This isn't Holiday Inn. We're giving them sanitation. But for the Democrats and the governor, like Governor Sherrill and Senator Kim and Senator Booker, to go out and do something like this of all the days is very frustrating. And we see Antifa signs are literally out there. The local police literally refusing to respond. They barricade it, not allowing our employees to come in and out. ICE has to go out there, remove the barricade, and then you have one of the senators complain because he got splattered with a pepper ball. I'm sorry, you probably shouldn't have been there.
You know, one thing I'll say about that, the local police, I know a lot of the New Jersey police, they're phenomenal. They love us, but they're told not to do anything.
That's right.
They love us. They love him. They even love me a lot. And I'm in New Jersey a lot. It's great. I mean, I think it's a great place. It's got a group of people running it now that are having a hard time. But they really like this administration. They love this administration more than any administration they've ever had. And they're thanking me all the time. And, I see those guys going up and down the Jersey Turnpike with their big, beautiful hats on. I say, I'd like to look like that someday. They're great. No, these are great people, and they love him, and they love ICE, and they love the Border Patrol, and they're not allowed to talk to anybody. It's like, but it all comes from the top. They have to follow orders. They want to keep their jobs.
Mr. President, are you expecting Congress to pass a federal gas tax holiday?
A gas tax holiday?
Yeah, to suspend federal.
Well, it's something we might talk about. Let's see what happens over the next week, 2 weeks. A lot of good things are happening.
So is it over the next time next week?
No, I was invited to I was going to go on Wednesday, but they closed it out very quickly. They're great. And Jim Dolan's a great guy. He's, as you know, owns and in charge of Madison Square Garden. He's having a good year. Boy, what a team. They win all their games. They have some great players. I think I'll be going to one of the games. I was invited by numerous people and Jim, and I think I'll be going. It's great to see it. The Knicks have really suffered for years, and they're doing right. They're doing right now very well.
Would you accept an agreement with Iran that just calls for further talks on uranium? Or
No.
The only option.
No, the basics. No, I would for some of it, because it's a memorandum of understanding for speed. One of the things that will happen is the Strait will open immediately. But it's got to be perfect. I'm not going to do this. I didn't do this to get a crummy agreement. The worst agreement ever signed was by Barack Hussein Obama. What a horrible agreement that was. It was a setback for this country, for the whole world. The Middle East would have blown itself up. No, I would like to have the countries we were talking about with Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and the others. We'd like to have them immediately join and Steve Witkoff is working on that with Jared and some others, but would like to have them join the Abraham Accords. It'll be historic if they do it. And I think they owe that to us, to be honest. I think, because that really would be a tremendous sign. And I think those countries owe it to us. Steve, are you going to get them to sign?
We're definitely pushing it, Mr. President.
I'm not sure we should make the deal if they don't sign. You want to know the truth. If they don't sign to join the Abraham Accords, I don't know that we have countries in there already. UAE, great countries, bold countries, and it's turned out to be so good, so effective, and so we're requesting strongly that they join. It'll be great. It'll be great for Saudi Arabia. It'll be great for Qatar and Kuwait, the whole group.
So the Iran deal might be contingent on more countries joining.
I don't know. I don't want to say that. I'm not going to give you, what's contingent, what's not. I can say that we can make a good deal right now, but maybe not a great deal. And if it's not a great deal, we're not making it. So because we can make a great deal with this guy right here, and but it's it's a lot nastier. Probably wouldn't go as quickly. We wouldn't be talking about as quickly, but it would be foolproof. But I think we're doing very well, Steve. I think we're doing pretty well in terms of the negotiation, but we'll see. If it's not going to be a real deal, because Obama had that horrible JCPOA, whatever it was the worst deal. It was a path for Iran to have a nuclear weapon very quickly. Years ago, they would have had a nuclear weapon. We might not be here talking about it right now. They would have had a nuclear weapon. And frankly, Obama picked the wrong country. He should have picked another country. I won't tell you what it was. But he picked the wrong country when he picked Iran. But we have things understood now with Iran. It's been nasty. They've lost their leaders. They've lost. And it really is regime change. We didn't set out for regime change. But by the fact that we're dealing with a totally different group of people than we were at the beginning. And frankly, I find them to be much more reasonable. I actually find them to be smarter, but I find them to be much more reasonable. This is regime change. One regime is gone, another regime is gone, we're dealing with the third. Pieces of it, because some of them are gone too. And I find them, I think, how can you have a stronger regime change than that, So I do find that. I'd like to thank you all very much. We're doing great. Our country is doing fantastically well, and this group of people is outstanding. Thank you all very much.
President Trump wrapping up his 12th cabinet meeting of his second administration. This live stream brought to you by some great sponsors, including MyPillow.com/RSBN. The warehouse sale ongoing. MyPillow.com/RSBN. You can save up to 80%. A ton of great products on there. Check it out, MyPillow.com/RSBN. If you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to RSBNetwork.com/donate to do so. Again, it's RSBNetwork.com/donate. For all of us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you again soon.